Pursuant to the Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, the Bastrop City Council will hold a regular meeting on March 22nd, 2016 in the City Council chambers located at 1311 Chestnut Street, Bastrop, Texas, to consider the following matters. First is call to order. I call us to order. We have 4 of our 5 council members and the mayor present, clear quorum. I will ask our star reporter locally, Jillian Beck, to lead us in the pledges to the flag, if you would stand if you're able.
I pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. You would remain standing. I will say an invocation. O Lord, we give thanks for the city of Bastrop, for all its 8,000 citizens and all who come here to do business and go to school and work and play. We give thanks for our staff, for this council, for everyone that lives here and loves this community, that we may work together in peace and harmony and do the will that you have given us to do, for us to be caring and loving neighbors, for us to support the opportunities that we have to live in this great community. In your holy name we pray. Amen. Please be seated. We do a little test. Who all's here to hear or talk about the relocation of the soup kitchen? Y'all have the majority. I'm going to move item D1 up to this point on our agenda. And how we're going to do this is, I want to say I was approached by several people that live in the neighborhood more or less between Sugar Shack and Sonic and Texas Grill and Pizza Hut to come and speak to us about what they understand, and what I understand is the In the Streets, Hands Up Ministry so-called soup kitchen moving over onto Loop 150 on the back of that neighborhood. So I'm going to invite a representative from the neighborhood to speak as long as he wants. Anybody else who is from the neighborhood that wants to speak, if you will sign a form to speak and put D1 on it, and also neighborhood at the top, our city secretary will be able to sort. Had a chance to speak, I will call on Pastor Nalba to have representatives from his ministry to come and address us as they will. And after that, anyone connected with the ministry that wants to speak can do the same for 3 minutes if you sign a form, and I hope you will put on there D1 Ministry. That would be easy for us to sort out. After that, anyone else who wants to speak is welcome to speak if you sign up, and you can just sign up and say D1 Other. That'll help us. Meanwhile, during these presentations, comments, the city council may want to ask some questions, and so I will, of course, call on them to do that when we're done, or throughout. Council can speak, and we'll have an opportunity to have a kind of a town forum about this issue, and everybody will get a chance to speak. So I'm going to start with the neighborhood. I know that Mr. Ronnie Landrum is going to speak first. Is that right? So if you would, Ronnie, if you'd come forward, you're on. Everybody, get that mic as close to your mouth as you can, because it's kind of hard to hear sometimes. Thank you, Ronnie.
Before I start, I would like to give the council a petition signed by every property owner in our neighborhood, 31 houses over there.
You can pass it out, please. Or somebody said distribute. They shouldn't say pass out. That's not a good word.
It's just one copy of it.
Oh, okay, well, I'll pass it
You can
around.
pass it around if you
Thank you.
like.
Thank you.
I kind of feel like I'm back at school again in front of a school board, drawing a crowd to talk about opposing views of something. As he said, my name is Ronnie Landrum. I've lived in Bastrop going on 54 years in a couple of weeks. I'd like to thank the mayor and the council for having us here tonight to express our concerns to you. As I've probably already been told, it's probably not going to change anything us being here, but I think you need to know how we feel in this neighborhood. We just want to state our concerns and about the proposed change to our neighborhood that we feel will be detrimental to the homeowners there. Our neighborhood is located, as Ken said, between Loop 150 and Highway 71. Basically, there's 4 streets that run through there. Perkins running north and south, Eskew running north and south, Jones and Higgins running east and west, 2 square blocks over there in that neighborhood. It's a rather old neighborhood. It's been there a long time. When we moved there, it was basically still a cotton field. To give you a little background, in early January of 2016, I learned of a possible move of the soup kitchen on Chestnut to an area on Loop 150. I called Mayor Kessler to see what he knew about this. He said he was unaware about the move, but told me that this would require it to go to planning and zoning for a change in the zoning. According to Mayor Kessler's, property owners within 200 feet would get a letter about a proposed zoning change. The affected property owners never heard anything about a meeting to change the zoning from C2, which is commercial, to another classification. Then on Monday, March 14th, after I found about, on Sunday, March 13th, I found out that the property had been sold. And on Monday, March 14th, my neighbor Robert Godachek and I came down to City Hall, talked to the people in Planning and Zoning office about the sale. They were very familiar that the property had been sold, and they said that it did not need to have a change in the zoning. Even though it wasn't classified as C2, they said it would be C1, but it would fit within that category. We feel like that was a pretty broad interpretation of what a commercial property is, and it was painted with a pretty wide brush. I immediately called Mayor Kessler and asked him to meet at my home with some of my neighbors, and after a lengthy discussion, he said it might be a good idea if we were to meet with Pastor Nava, which we agreed to. He said, good idea. So on Thursday, March 17th at my home, we met with Pastor Nava and a group of his supporters, including new property owner, Mr. Ralph Ladd, as well as J.D. Mikan, who owns the building that houses a CPA firm to the west of this proposed site, and Ms. Stone. She and her husband owned the property on the other corner, which used to be Loudon's Garage. And also a number of my neighbors were there. We had 20-plus people, had a full house. Our neighborhood is totally opposed to the use of this property for a soup kitchen. We feel like it should not be adjacent to a residential neighborhood or in a residential neighborhood. Our neighborhood feels like we should have had input into Mr. Ladd's intended use of this property before he purchased it. And the soup kitchen has not been without its problems on Chestnut Street. According to Pastor Nava, 14 calls were made to the police in the 18-month period that it's been there. However, he said only 2 reports were written by the police, and that he had called the police on the 2 occasions where reports were written. But someone felt compelled to call 12 other times to say, hey, we've got a problem. But by the time someone got there, obviously there was no problem. Here's some of our major concerns. There are 12 very young children that live in the neighborhood. Over half of them are young girls. Several of them just learning to ride bicycles, finally getting a little freedom to be up and down the street and around that they haven't been able to do in the past. We also have 7 women in the neighborhood who live alone. We're very concerned about this and the safety of our neighborhood. There have already been some problems on Higgins Street with some of the homeless people that have been up and down there. They used to congregate at the Valero station, and I understand they've been removed from there. Because, I asked Ms. Lewis if she wanted to speak concerning this, but I will speak concerning about a situation that occurred in her yard. She has a greenhouse in her backyard, and she went back several times, and things were not in the same place that they had been previously. And one morning, she got up, looked out the back door, and there was a man outside her greenhouse using the bathroom. And we just feel like that's not appropriate in a residential neighborhood, or any neighborhood as far as that goes. I've talked to a lot of people, and obviously we have a lot of people that feel very differently from our neighborhood. But I've talked to a lot of people and asked them, even in planning and zoning, I said, would you want this in your neighborhood? You know what the answer was? No, I wouldn't. Mayor Kessler, so I'm going to use you. I asked you the first time I talked to you, would you want this in your neighborhood? Your answer was, no, I would not. I'd like to give the council and whoever else is interested a copy of some information about homeless facilities in established neighborhoods. Is Mr. Sparks here? I'm going to hand this out, and he's going to speak to this. He did the research on it, and I think it has some interesting facts that I would like to see. And if anyone else would like a copy of it, I have some extra copies. I don't think we're going to have a lot of people talking. And we've said what we need to say to the mayor, and I'm sure he's relayed some of this to the council. But basically, what I've given you is how we feel in that petition. We had every homeowner sign it with the exception of one, and the reason they didn't sign, or she didn't sign, because she does not speak English and she didn't understand what needed to do, and there was no translator available. But other than that, everyone in our neighborhood has signed that. All the property owners have signed it.
Ronnie, before you sit down, would you, I want to ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned our conversations about planning and zoning. Do you remember that when we talked about that and I told you there would be a hearing and you'd have a chance to speak, that was related to the fact that it was going to have housing connected, they were going to have people sleeping there?
At that time, I don't remember you saying anything about housing. The only thing I talked about and knew about at that time was a soup kitchen.
Well, let me tell you what I told you. I told you that I talked to the planning department and that the understanding they had at that point was it was going to be a soup kitchen, and they were also going to have a housing facility for some homeless people or for some people that were in recovery, and that to do that would require a planning and zoning change or a variance, and it would have to go to planning and zoning. And with that understanding, I told you that you'd have an opportunity to appear at a hearing of planning and zoning. But subsequent to that, and I told you that after I found this out, that they withdrew the desire to, or the need to have people staying there. They found another place. So it reverted back to only being the soup kitchen, which is the reason that there wasn't going to have to be a hearing.
And I don't recall that, but that's what, you know.
I don't want I don't want the community to think I'm uninformed or misleading.
Yeah, okay. But the bottom line is, you said you wouldn't want it in your neighborhood.
That is the truth.
Okay, so we're clear on that. I don't know whether there's going to be, like I said, whether there's going to be other people speak other than Mr. Sparks.
So let's let you hand it off to him, and we'll do that. Thank you. Would you state your first name? We know your last name is Sparks.
Yeah. My name is, excuse me, my name is James C. Sparks. I go by Cliff. I am a Bastrop police chaplain. Was a volunteer position. I was used to be chaplain of the Travis County Sheriff's Posse years ago, and I am the assistant secretary of the Bastrop Christian Ministerial Alliance. I was the secretary for nearly 6 years through the fires and everything, and I've known Kay since we were little kids, and Gary and I are friends. Anyway, thank you all for letting me speak here.
No, not yet.
Question is, you know, not whether a soup kitchen is a good thing. Soup kitchens, as a generic term, is, you know, can stand for a lot of things, but we understand that it's a service usually motivated by community concern, love, and often people with an evangelistic motivation that want to help people and present to them the love of God and so forth. It's not a question of whether a soup kitchen is a good thing, but it's whether it's the right thing for this neighborhood. I want to just tell you that we moved to Bastrop in 2009 after I retired from the utility and worked and lived near Austin and worked in Austin for a long time. And Bastrop is a really neat place to live. We first found out about Bastrop, other than knowing the state park was here when I was a kid, that it was a great place to go shopping at Walmart because there were not any, hardly any shoppers there at night when we first started going there. And then we started finding other things out about the city. Well, one of the things in the last, since the fire in particular, Bastrop has had a whole lot of city beautification projects, like art and public places and everything like that. And I really like that they changed the statuary that's along the bridge. And I remember that bridge from when I was a little kid, and it was a skinny thing, and it terrified me to ride in my father's truck as we went fishing to, Fisherman's Park, because there were other cars coming, and man, that was a skinny bridge. Well, it's still a skinny bridge, but one of the neat things about it is being able to walk there in the morning or in the evening and see women pushing their kids in strollers, and people just walking, occasional boy and girl over there putting a lock on the side of the thing where it's got a lot of locks on that thing. I guess it means, true love or something. But one of the things is that particular area right in there, that intersection, approaching that bridge is a key gateway to the city. In fact, there's really only one other, and that's at 95 at the opposite end of Chestnut over by the theaters. Most of the people come in, when they come to these downtown events, come in through that way. Now, Mr. Nava, Pastor Nava, says that they're currently serving 70 to 90 people. I went over there today and looked at the number of parking places, and there are 14 to 16 parking places that may or may not be really usable whenever the thing is fully parked out and everything like that, or if you get 70 to 90 people or more. Now, I'm familiar with Austin and the Arch facility down at 7th and San Jacinto Street, and the Arch is a haven for crime, for all kind of things like that. I would hate to see that happen at Bastrop, but I want to ask you, as visitors come into Bastrop, if they come in and the first thing they see is a soup kitchen, are they going to have an image of Bastrop as a city that's vibrant and alive, or is it going to be like some of the other cities in this county that are full of boarded up storefronts that they're trying to refurbish, like Elgin and Smithville? Bastrop's not like that. Bastrop's got a heart like a healthy tree, but I think that this would be a serious blight on Bastrop, and there are a lot of concerns like with traffic, foot traffic, and other traffic. There are already buildups there at certain times of the day, bus traffic from kids getting out of school and so forth. I want to read quickly two things. After working all day at the election day just last, the primary election, this is what I wrote the next morning after an event that happened. And we've had a number of events. I have a privacy fence behind our house. Our back is bordered by the Tropicana Motel and Pizza Hut. That's a great place. It's very quiet generally, but we've had, since we moved here, a number of issues with the homeless transient population coming back there. Ogling, our granddaughter, when she went out to lay in the hammock in our backyard till we knew they were there, through the privacy fence, people throwing beer cans, beer bottles there, and people actually staying there some of the time on cardboard mats. And we've called the police when we've heard women scream and stuff like that. Well, that's just a little thing, and it's been better lately. However, I'll read you this. March the 2nd, 2016, 3:24 p.m. To all our Higgins Street neighbors, last night, Tuesday, March 1st, 2016, at about 10:15 p.m., my wife and I arrived home after work in the election and found a prowler in our backyard. As I ran inside the house to get a flashlight and a baseball bat, a man ran down our driveway from hiding in the shadows. My wife described him to police as either a white or Hispanic man in a dark shirt and a hoodie jacket and sweatpants and white shoes. The officer, who arrived about 15 minutes later, said he and other officers began looking for suspicious persons matching the description in the area immediately after our call. He also said that thefts of yard equipment had occurred, and that may have been what the person or persons had been looking for. He then resumed searching for suspects in our neighborhood and surrounding areas, assisted by deputies and other police. I encourage you to be sure to secure anything of value that can be stolen easily, keep doors locked, and call the police if you see anything or anyone suspicious in the neighborhood, whether at your house or the neighbors. Let's work together to keep our streets safe. Thank you. Well, I passed that out to the people that were on our street that were home, and later got a few others. Then I wrote this on Thursday, March the 17th, 2016 in the morning, of which you have a copy. This is based on personal experience, study in sociology, anthropology, and a number of things like that for a long time, and working with the mentally ill, working with the handicapped, and being in a number of areas where there's poverty, seeing things like in northern Belfast, Northern Ireland, and Havana, Cuba, and other places. Homeless facilities in established neighborhoods. Some unintended consequences of introducing facilities for those generically categorized as homeless exist. Homeless, in quotes, is a euphemism that has largely replaced terms like hobo and bum. Those are the old terms. Under this catch-all term are several general groups. Those who have actually lost homes for a number of reasons, such as in our fires or floods, including catastrophe, tragedy, or family discord. The mentally ill, recently released criminals, professional vagabonds, those who prefer a rootless lifestyle, including some that live in the river in the landlocked park that's behind Sonic, migrants, and travelers with money or vehicle problems. Of these groups, the most likely to create problems in an established neighborhood are the mentally ill, released criminals, some of the vagabond class, and occasional migrants. Homeless facilities are often set up by well-meaning and generous individuals who care for the less fortunate and base decisions on love and often evangelistic outreach. Local or other level governments may become involved for a number of reasons: interest in social engineering, including welfare expansion, false philanthropy, a term written by the law by Frederick Bastiat, attempting to circumvent crime issues, political expediency, and so on. Here's a short list of unintended consequences to citizens who reside in established neighborhoods where such homeless facilities are planned that should be considered as real potentials. Drop in property values, increase in electric bills due to keeping lights on as a security measure, increase in water bills due to theft of water by wanderers. Those two things we've already experienced. Increase in property crime, burglary, theft, vandalism, breakage, littering, fire. And we've experienced that. My son, a U.S. Deputy Marshal, arrested a man in our backyard that had come over our fence. The first thing he said after my son said, "Get down on the ground," was, "I didn't mean to steal." He turned out to be a 19-year-old man with a long mental health record, and it was well known to the police. And around that time also we found cash register that had been stolen from the donut shop that had been broken in over at the place where the Coffee Dog is in that little center, that shopping center, and they couldn't find the cash register because the thieves had apparently dropped it behind a tree in our yard, and it was coated with blood where they tried to open it up, got cut by the sharp metal. The police picked it up and made it part of the case. That was a couple of years ago. Higher insurance costs as neighborhood becomes marked for risk. Personal hazards to children, women, and elderly from thieves, drunks, pedophiles, voyeurs, and other sex offenders, often in the homeless populace. Noise and light pollution issues. loss of personal esteem and respect if neighborhood becomes known as a hangout, personal health issues related to stress over unwelcome changes and fear of conflict or personal safety, like Ms. Lewis, who's afraid to go out in her yard because of the people that stayed in her greenhouse and stole chairs from her. Pedestrian and vehicular traffic and other safety issues, I already mentioned that. Tax increases and zoning issues, inability to sell property, and that's a big one. A couple of things I didn't list were increased prostitution, drug use, and where are these people going to go to the bathroom, and what are you going to do with the extra foot traffic? Where are they going to sleep at night? Have you ever been to Old San Juan, Puerto Rico, after San Juan Bautista Day and seen the drunks sleeping in the medians of the city? It's a terrible thing. Thank you very much, and y'all be blessed in what you do.
Thank you, Mr. Sparks. We're going to start timing anybody else who wants to speak from the neighborhood for 3 minutes. The Mayor Pro Tem will let you know when 30 seconds are up. The only person I have so far from the neighborhood is, I think, a property owner, J.D. Micah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ladies and gentlemen of our council, I appreciate the opportunity to speak before you. I promise I'll be definitely substantially less than 3 minutes. As the item says, citizens living on Perkins, Higgins, and Jones. I do not live in that neighborhood. However, as Mr. Landrum has stated, I have property, commercial property, immediately adjacent to this proposed soup kitchen. And I'm in favor of a soup kitchen, and I commend the church, Episcopal Church, for sponsoring and providing for a soup kitchen. However, I'm concerned about the location. Currently, there is no fence between that building and my property, and there is no exterior lighting on that property. The owner of the property and the Reverend have indicated that they would try to remedy that. My other concern is parking. I understand that there would be a lot of the individuals who come in to partake of a meal will come by vehicle. I think the parking on that property is very limited, and I can't afford those people parking in my parking lot for legal and other reasons. And those are basically my concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, J.D. And we don't have any others. Mike, would you comment or have one of your staff members comment about the zoning, about how that fits? And I know Mr. Landrum's raised some questions and some of the other neighbors did, and obviously I'm not a professional to be able to explain it better, but could you do your best?
Melissa, I think you've got a presentation. Why don't you come up? Ms. McCollum is our Director of Planning, and she has put some materials together to review the zoning issue with the council tonight.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I do want to say that this property is Zone C2. It's Commercial District 2. It's heavy, also zoning classification. It's actually our highest or most liberal zoning classification that we have in the city limits. We have everything from general retail and office designations as well as C1, but C2 is the zoning classification for this property. As you highlighted earlier, Mayor, it was true originally when we were talking with the current or proposed now current property owner. They were talking about having an overnight or a residential overnight facility there, and they are no longer proposing that at this location. So with that, I feel a soup kitchen is very similar to a restaurant or what you would have at a restaurant facility, which is allowed outright in the C2 zoning classification. So from my understanding, it would not require any zoning change at this point in time. I will, however, say that what the last gentleman brought up in regards to potential parking and some other site issues, those can come into play and will need to be looked at. Currently, the property is used for a variety of retail type uses, and changing that use to go to a restaurant or a different kind of occupancy standard can look at site development requirements. So with that, that, we will work with the property owner on allocating parking and making sure that they have enough parking on site to meet the new proposed use. So they have not come in to change the use yet for that property.
But to gain what we call a certificate of occupancy?
Correct.
They would have to follow all our codes for the
Correct.
particular use?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. Everybody understand that? Mike, what would, or Melissa, or anybody else, if the neighborhood felt like we were interpreting this wrongly, would that be proper English? What would, is there any remedy that they would have?
I'm sorry. They certainly have the right to file a suit against the city in district court. This would be a state issue that the council has wrongly interpreted the zoning district.
Okay, all right, that's helpful. Okay, Melissa, thank you very much. That was helpful. I know that I think Pastor Nava, y'all have a couple of you that would like to make your initial presentation, and then we'll call on anybody else. Is that Mr. Ladd? Are you up first? I think. Ralph Ladd. Well, we understand the owner of the property. Okay, you're up to say whatever you want.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and the council members. Thank you for having us here today. My name is Ralph Ladd, and I'm a new resident to Bastrop. My wife and I have only been in the area for about 3 years, and from what I understand about Bastrop, we've got another 30 years to go before we can say we've been here a while. So we're still going to be saying we're new for quite a while. So that's something of a comfort. I'm going to just briefly take you through the process we went through before we selected this piece of property, because I think it's important for everybody to understand how we got to this place, okay? About a year or so ago, we were looking at ways we could help support Bastrop, primarily through the church that we were attending, and one of the ministries that they had was very much involved in the soup kitchen and helping with that. And I had the opportunity to go down there and actually serve in the soup kitchen. My wife then later stepped up, and she is now the accountant. She's a former Texas CPA, so she has the right credentials to go back and help look at the finances for this particular ministry. And through that process, we became actively engaged with the ministry and began to understand what it's all about and what it's doing here in Bastrop. There's a couple of issues with its current location. As you all know, that it sits right now right there on Chestnut Street between Pecan and Jefferson, in a very, kind of conspicuous location here in Bastrop. And it's sharing part of a building there. And there are several tables in there by which they administer the meals throughout the day. But the reality is, it's kind of overgrown its purpose, and we need a larger facility to be able to accommodate the growing number of people that are being fed there. That's one thing that's kind of driving us to look at different locations. But the other thing that we're also aware of, we're looking at writing grants and how we can help secure the right finances for this ministry. And one of the things we became aware of is that actually when you own the property, you have access to far greater corporate funds than you do if you're leasing a particular property. So for example, if Blue Bonnet is a major donator or contributor to you, if you actually own the property versus leasing it, you do have access to quite a bit more funds. So that there is an advantage, an economic advantage in actually owning the property versus leasing a particular piece of property. So with those kind of considerations in mind, we began looking at other alternatives, and we first looked at a piece of property close to the roadhouse off of 21 there, and it was pretty much a dilapidated building, and we went to the city. We had a meeting with the city to look at the feasibility of whether or not we could move our operation over to that particular location. And after the city went out and inspected that particular piece of property, they came back and told us basically, we need to really condemn that particular site. It's very problematic. It will not fit for purpose what you need. as well as you're going to have to spend a lot of money in additional infrastructure for things like parking and sewers and things like that. So we kind of abandoned that particular site at the time. And then we looked at, there was a piece of commercial property that was available right across from where the soup kitchen is today, which is the Montessori school. That piece of commercial property was for sale. And we took a look at it, we inspected it. What we found there was that much of the building actually doesn't sit on a permanent foundation. So we were a little bit worried that if we invested in this particular piece of property, that foundational problems might happen later on. So we kind of abandoned that. And then we looked at some more commercial property just south of 71. We engaged a realtor to help us find available zone properties that we could see around town. And we looked at some property down south of 71, but unfortunately the owners wanted way too much money for that particular property. So we gave it about 2 months of solid looking around what was available until this piece of property, we found this piece of property, and we should have seen it sooner because actually, in fact, it's been on the market for about, well, it was on the market for over 1,000 days, okay? So there you have it. That particular piece of property has been on and off the market now for a long time. So we decided that would make an attractive place for the soup kitchen, and at the time we thought we could combine kind of many of the ministry things with the men's shelter and the soup kitchen and try to house them all in one site altogether, and put Pastor Nava and his wife Rosie, locate them on the premises so they could be 24/7 supervising the facility. So then we went back to the city and said, this is what our plans are, and what do you think about this proposal and this site? And they told us at the time, and I think there's a December timeframe, they told us that you would have to come back and apply for a conditional use permit, because if you want to have a men's shelter there, the closest sort of typical building that you would be looking at would be some sort of rehabilitation center, and for a rehabilitation center to be there, you would need a conditional use permit. So we did that. They sent us some good examples. We drafted up kind of a first round at the permit in December. I shared that with the city just to get their ideas, and is this going to be right? And we knew at the time, because they were advising us, the city was advising us, we're going to have to go through the process, and we're going to have to then issue letters to all the residents and all the businesses 200 feet in proximity to where you're proposing, and there would be a public hearing on it, and we would go through that process. So we were prepared for that. January came along. I took ownership of the property at the end of December, got through the New Year's, came back. Then we actually kind of, one of those things happened that you don't always look for, but it happened, an opportunity to relocate the men's shelter to another location outside the city limit, but still in the county, came up. So that happened in January, where we moved the men's shelter out of its former location out to the new location. And therefore, it was our understanding at that time that since the men's shelter was no longer needed, or was no longer going to be there, we could then go ahead and go through whatever we needed to do, but without the conditional use permit, to turn that into the new location of the soup kitchen. And so that was kind of our train of thought until Ronnie stepped up and said, hold on, we haven't really had an input onto this, which is absolutely the fact, that's the truth, until we were able to meet with him at his house this last week. And so that's what's kind of got us to this place. And so I just wanted to share that with everybody. The other thing I would say, so kind of why it's kind of a little bit near and dear to my heart is that I have a son who is a graduate from Tulane University in mechanical engineering, and he had a naval ROTC scholarship. And he was proudly serving his country when he was diagnosed, first time in his life, in our life, with bipolar disorder 1, serious mental illness. And since that time, this has been several years ago, since that time, his life has been completely turned upside down. And I know, having lived this now for several years, that, you know, you can start out in life with all the best intentions. That does not mean that life doesn't happen to you somewhere along the way. And sometimes somebody's going to need, right now my wife and I are spending a lot of time, but sometimes I would like to think that there's community of folks out there that would be able to give him the proper assistance that should he need that where he's living. So these kind of things, they are important to me. And I just want to thank you all for your time and attention.
Now, Ralph, Roland, is somebody else going to tag team with him? You? Okay, all right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Pastor Nava? No.
Good evening, City Council, Mayor. Thank you all for allowing us to come and speak. First, I just want to say that all this wasn't our intentions at all. We came to assist Bastrop in a need that was greatly needed and still needed in this place. And I just want to sort of speak get the record straight. We are not a homeless shelter or agency. We are a soup kitchen. The percentage of homeless people that we serve is between 9 and 11%. The rest of it is families that live here in the city of Bastrop. And most importantly, we serve, in the meeting that I said, it wasn't up to 90, I said to 60 to 70 people a day from where it started from 7. And that's not all at one time. If we were to get an occupancy permit, it would be 34 seats that we have in that place, and that's how many could come in at one time. So they come in as that, not overbearing it, overcrowding the place or anything like that. We're going to have 34 people at the most in the facility at a time. So we serve that in the morning, and we serve the same at lunchtime. That totals a number between 60 to 70. It's not 90 people throughout the day. I just want to get that correct. We are a kitchen. And the reason why we put soup kitchen is because back when they first started, as some of us reading the history books, that when the Great Depression came, and this was a way for people that needed help to receive help. And they were done by Christian people that were willing to serve their community at that time. And that's what we're doing now. We're not doing any different than what it started from day one. We're just here to show, most importantly, and I'm going to speak this as I did in the meeting, and they told me, well, you know, you don't got to quote scripture. That's what was told to me. But I'm going to quote scripture because I stand on the word of God, and I shall stand continuously on the word of God. Because it's God that changed my heart. The people that they talk about, that were once me. So if God could change me, he could change the other people too. And this is where the relation becomes bigger and tighter with those people. Though they had concerns, and we're here to hear the concerns. We're here to help find a way to meet their concerns. And by bringing in somebody who, the people that are doing these criminal acts, maybe if I was able to talk to them, they have somewhere that they're welcome to come in, maybe their lives can change. Because it's just about showing them that we're concerned about you. And the thing is, if these concerns that's happened over a year ago, we weren't even there, so why is that being brought up while we're trying to move forward? I just don't see where the connection is at. I know the concern is great, and we're concerned about their concerns. And we made an offer saying if we move in, we will even help to do a community watch force in that area, in that neighborhood. But that didn't land on good ear. So I'm just saying that we tried, and we're still going to try, but our goal is not to come and to bring it to this level right now. We should be able to come as humans and men and women of God and come in agreement that there is a need. And some people just have more of that passion for that need. Because me, And, you know, maybe somebody might look at me different when they find out. But yes, I was homeless, I was incarcerated, but it was by the love of God that touched another man that showed me, you know what, your life can change, and it has changed, Mayor, City Council. And I'm talking to everybody else that's out here. If y'all would just give it, you know, people just need a second chance. Praise God that he gives us thousands of chances. And I'm just looking to do my part, what God has called me to do. And if I get a little emotional because I'm not retaliating how I used to, because I have changed. And I'm learning, I'm not a man of big words or high education. I went to the 7th grade, and my vocabulary is not well. But my heart is. And I just want to do what God has put in my heart to do. I'm not here to cause any trouble. I'm not here to stir up nothing. I'm just here to show that regardless of who you are, regardless of your race, color, or creed, regardless of your financial status, regardless if you have a home or not, you are still a person and you are valuable. People put more value on the dollar bill than they do on a human life. But if you get a $100 bill and you tear it in pieces, it has no value. But a heart that gets crushed, it could be remended, and they still hold the same value. And so I'm just speaking, and I'm just letting you know what we're here to do. We're not here to bring any confusion. Whatever needs that need to be done through us, we're more willing to do it. We're not here to be a hindrance to the community. We're here to help the community grow. But we want to expand and become like other big cities, like Austin and Houston and San Antonio. Well, guess what? They have these things there too. But they also have people there who could help keep it in control. You know, I know where we've been, and as he stated that, yes, and that's just the truth. I had to let them know the police department's been called 14 times there. From when we first started, October 2014 up to now. But a lot of them, like he said, maybe when they got there, it was dismissed. But there was 3 of them from one individual who called me, and I gave her my number. And I said, call me if it comes up again. And I went, and I showed up. I even stayed there and had some guys stay there to make sure that nobody would do it again. And it came to an end. That situation hasn't been no more. And the people who have come up that were homeless, the percentage has gone down, because there were some that y'all might remember being around here. They're not here no more because they have moved on, because they got their life together through our social worker and through the nurse who does free health screening. It's not just a kitchen that we do. It's not just where they just come and eat. It's where they get spiritual guidance and their needs get met. And it's coming through the people of the city that are coming in and sharing the same compassion and showing the compassion that the Lord has given us all to share. And so I'm just speaking on behalf that, you know, if it goes through, I don't want to be a bad neighbor. I don't want to be a bad neighbor. And there's much more. As city council and mayors, y'all know yourself, I'm coming to y'all. And I'm not looking for no favoritism. I'm not looking for nothing, but I just want to come. Since I've been coming here, and this ain't my first time up speaking with the city council, but I came with a concern for people from all over, from the north area, talking about the community center, the covered bus shelter, and all these other things. And this is just another thing that we're trying to do, is to bring some things that are needed. And if Bastrop will really open up their eyes and see there is a need in your backyard. There is a need. And there's somebody who's willing to do it, that is not going to be in conflict with you. Though these things are going on, it was prior to us. So why should we be held accountable for things that happened over a year and a half ago, or even a year ago, and we be held charged for that? We're innocent of those crimes. But now, if there was something out there that they could come in and be pointed out and sat down and says, look, you can't be doing that no more. You want people to respect you. You need to start walking this way, start acting this way, start speaking differently. And that's what we're here to do. Those people just need guidance. And we all need guidance in somewhere in our life, because there's not one perfect man who's walking right now. We all need guidance in our life. So I'm just sharing right now what's in my heart. And you know, I get emotional because I know what it was to eat out of a dumpster. I know what it was to be rejected and people cross the street on you because of the way you look. People still look at me like that today. But I know one thing, if they look at the inside, they'll see the change of a man, not the outside. And so I'm just here just to speak on behalf and not to bring no confusion whatsoever. And I know Mr. Ladd, they put money already on the property, believing in the ministry and the purpose and our goal. But right now, I have to say, I don't want to be the bad neighbor. You know, and some people might not agree with me right now, but if I feel that we have to go somewhere else, the same problem is going to arise. No matter where we move to, the same problem is going to arise. So what do we do? Just stop it now? I'm not. I will keep going forward, but I have to keep searching for an area that's going to welcome us, because we're not trying to bring in no harm to anybody. And I respect every person from the residents of that area, and I respect them fully. Without a doubt, I promise you I would do whatever I could for them, but I can't guarantee nothing. It's only me. If the police department can guarantee safety, if they can't, why would they ask me, can I guarantee it? I can't. But I could do the best that I can, just as the police force does their best. And I love the police officers. They know us. And I'm not putting anybody to say what side. No, I'm not doing that. I'm just saying that the officers do a great job, and they respond to the soup kitchen when they get a call. And the thought that we had spoke on, Mayor, on that meeting was saying, doing in that facility, if we were to do it, is there possible that a substation of the police department can occupy one of those offices there as being a substation, if that will bring any peace to the community? So that's something else that we could talk on later. Building up fences and putting up lights, not for them, but we'll put more lights on the property. Whatever we need to do, we'll do. But of course, we're going to reach out and ask for the help of the city as well, and the residents of Bastrop. We're not looking to be a hindrance to y'all and have y'all come out of y'all's own pocket. That's not what this is about, or have them worry. We know the women's state, we know they have a concern with children. We have the 4-H club, the children that come to the soup kitchen. They're not worried about that. We had the Girl Scouts that came last week and brought canned goods and picnic tables. We have families who are here today that their children go. If it wasn't for that place, yes, the food pantry is there and they do a wonderful thing. But some people might not have gas on or light on to cook something. So getting the food, that's good, but how's it going to be cooked? Or maybe they just don't have the appliances. There's plenty of needs out there, but we don't see them because they're not voiced to us, but they're voiced to the soup kitchen. And so they can come in and get a meal and stay as long as they want. We don't see it loitering. We see them receiving spiritual guidance. We see them having their needs met. We see them having a social work, helping them find a place of residence that they can. We see a place where people are obtaining jobs. Since we opened in October of 2014, there have been 9 people who have obtained employment through the soup kitchen. And so what do those people do? They become productive citizens. They start buying, shopping here locally, bringing up money into the city by city taxes. Do you not know the ones that you reject are the ones that are still sowing into the city? So by them being recognized that, you know what, you do have some value, their self-morale will rise up. And let's not just go by what the outside looks. Because if we did that, I probably wouldn't be standing here right now. So I'm just sharing what we're doing, City Council, Mayor, and all the residents of Bastrop. And if there's any questions that want to be said, I'll stay up here and I'll answer questions. I don't know if we have any citizens' comments on our side. I'm not sure, but...
Yeah, I think we do. So if you're done, we'll move on with that. Thank you, Roland. Aaron Carruthers. Yeah. Mayor Pro Tem will let you know when you have 30 seconds left.
Okay. First, I want to say good afternoon, good evening to the council, good afternoon and good evening to everyone present. I'm going to tell y'all a little story. Is that better?
Thank you.
I'm going to tell y'all a story. And it's the story of a young lady. There was a young lady that had 3 children before the time she was 21. There was a young lady who started going to jail at the age of 16 and a half. There was a young lady who was abused by her husband. There was a young lady who had to eat out of soup kitchens, live in women's shelters, live in family shelters. There was a young lady that was told by all the aspects in her life and by all the people around her that she would never make it because of the situation she was in. There was a young lady who used to walk 4 miles to the grocery store and 4 miles back with 3 children under the age of 4. There was a young lady who could have quit school and given up on life. There was a young lady who, through a soup kitchen like this, found and went back to her first love, which was God. That young lady is me. I am now a corrections officer. I am now able to support my children. I'm able to come to the city of Bastrop and volunteer at the soup kitchen when I'm not working. I'm able to share my story, to share my testimony with those around me for one reason: the grace of God, and in this world, because somebody gave me a chance. Somebody took the time out to say, you matter. Someone took the time out to say, you're a smart young lady. You have a spark about you. And all I ask is that for the people of this community to come together and understand that that's all it takes is a chance. Everyone who's homeless is not a vagabond, is not a rapist, is not a sexual offender. There are some misguided people who go to the soup kitchens all around Austin, all around this area. They're misguided. All of them are not bad. I had the privilege of going to the Arch on yesterday. There are a lot of things wrong at the Arch. However, if that place is not there, what about that one person who made it? What about me? Thank you.
Lizette Castillo.
Good evening. I just wanted to say for a couple of years, he's actually helped me out a lot with, for a couple of years I wasn't able to get Christmas presents for my kids, and he was there. Also, there would be a couple of times where we couldn't eat, and we would go there. He's a really good person, and I think they deserve this move because, I mean, he's helping a lot of people, and it just keeps on growing because the word of mouth of him being such a good pastor and great to people and just, like they say, giving people a chance. So basically this move would be good for people because, like I said, it's just, we need room. It's very crowded in there, and just, that's basically it. That's basically it. Thank you.
Thank you. Jana Copeland-Dybel. Please pronounce your last name for me if I got it wrong.
It's Jana Copeland-Dybel.
Diebel.
Dybel. And this is my daughter, Haley Dybel. She's 12. I wanted to let you know that I've been a resident in Bastrop for 47 years. I was raised here. My dad was Bastrop County Judge Jimmy Copeland. Bastrop is a very dear place for us. Raised my children here. Graduated from Bastrop High. It's very important. My daughter, 2 years ago in 2014, and when it started getting cold, she decided, as we were saying our prayers one evening, she said, "Mama, what happens to those people who are cold and don't have a place to sleep when it's cold outside like we do?" And I told her, I said, I'm not sure, honey, because I just don't know. And she said, well, is there anything that we can do? And I said, well, let's look into it and see what's available for us to help with. And at that time, we met Mr. Navarra, and we met some other people. We called around to find out what the needs were. Haley started Haley's project to help the homeless. She collected blankets, which we passed out at the soup kitchen and also the Mission U2s. And I wanted you to know that these people are talking about these families and homeless people like they use the bathroom on your grass. So what, really? I mean, what I'm trying to say is that my daughter has gotten so much and has grown so much in her heart, and so have I, in meeting with these families and bringing things to them, collecting out into the community for them. And she speaks to them, she talks to them. And this soup kitchen is something that has grown from something that was really tiny, and it's over blooming to something that we need to move forward with. And I would really like to have the support of Bastrop County and Bastrop City in all of this. So that's what I had to say.
Thank you. Carlos Liriano.
Carlos Liriano, 1208 Church Street. Again, I wasn't planning on speaking tonight. However, this is a very important issue as our city grows. I certainly understand the issues that the residents have. I understand that. I also believe that Reverend Nava is absolutely correct. This issue, if they move to another neighborhood, that neighborhood's going to have an issue with it, right? So the way I see it, the city needs to get involved to help them resolve this issue. They came to this piece of property because this piece of property can serve their facility issues. But this is a much broader issue than just the building and the location. This is an issue of folks that are living in our community that do not have enough food to take care of kids or themselves. I recently had a conversation with a teacher that she has to send food home on Friday with a student because she's not sure that that student has enough to eat during the weekend, okay? The school system has over 60% reduced or free lunches. This is an area-wide issue that we need to address. If this is not the right location, my request is that the city joins them to find a suitable location to serve the need. This need is not going to go away, and when we go from 8,000 to 20,000, this issue is still going to be here. So I understand the residents' concern deeply, but the city has to be involved in resolving this issue because there's a serious need for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Connie Bagel Rachal, come anywhere near on that? You can tell us exactly how to pronounce your last name.
Well, it's actually Rachel, but nobody says it right, so I don't either, and just go by Rachel. I'm from Good Shepherd Lutheran Church here in Bastrop, where I serve in the capacity of outreach team leader. I have had the privilege to work with Pastor Nava at the soup kitchen. The work that he does is so important that I would hate to see him squashed or continue to try to operate in a space that can no longer hold the number of people that need this facility. The people in the community that is trying to block the new location, while I understand their concerns, it sounds to me that they've got problems already. And nobody's there yet. You know, this facility hasn't caused their problems. They've already got them. And they've got to be addressed separately from this move, or proposed move, I guess I should say. This is a pre-existing condition that's got to be dealt with or without the soup kitchen being there. And they can't blame those problems on what is proposed to take place. I don't see how feeding people that are hungry is going to make their problem any more severe. And that's all that we're proposing to do, is just give people a helping hand. I've been in Bastrop for 15 years, but I'm a fifth-generation Texan that I can approve, and probably goes back further than that, but Comanches didn't keep good records. In the time I've been here, I found this little town to be a comfort for me. Before I came here, I had a brainstem stroke and nearly died. I will do whatever I can to serve my God in any way I can, because he saved my life.
The Reverend Joe Williams.
To the mayor and to the council. I'm Reverend Joe Williams. I got hooked up with the soup kitchen over a year ago. I met Pastor Novice. We was preaching one night, and I heard what he said, and we got to talking. He said he was opening the soup kitchen. So my wife and I, we got involved with it. And through that, our church got involved in it. And every Thursday, we're there at the soup kitchen, and we'll make a meal. But not only that, we'll do Pastor Novice, we begin to do one at LBA, and we're getting ready to set up the kitchen there. And we talk about in the neighborhood, it's in front of my house. And that's where I feel about helping the people. It doesn't matter if it's in my neighborhood, it's someone to help someone. It's in my front yard. But we're going to set up the kitchen, we're going to help people, we're going to set up a clothes, where people can come in and get clothes, come in to get food, and come in and get cooked food. We want to do that, because that's what it's all about, helping people. And if we can't help people here, and we can't get along here with people, how are we going to go to heaven and get together? We have to start here. We have to start somewhere. And like people say, a lot of people don't want it in their neighborhood. And I don't have a problem with you not wanting it in your neighborhood. I'm different. I don't mind it being in my front yard, because I'm there every day. I'm there day and night, and we can help patrol. We can help do the things that we need to do to help the people. And that's all about helping people.
Amy Rodel.
little short for this. Hi, I'm Amy. Hello, everyone. A lot of the folks at the soup kitchen know me. I'm their registered nurse. I work with them every day. We work face to face. I know their problems. My children know them. My children have been known to come in there with me when I gave up my job so that I could do this for a living, literally for a volunteer living. I gave this up because it's important. Now, everybody has come up here and given you rhetoric about how important it is, and I'm sure you guys understand that by now. What I can say as a citizen of Bastrop is I would put it in my front yard too. I understand who these people are, and I recognize the fact that they're people. A lot of the people I treat there are elderly. They don't have food in their cupboards at the end of the month. They're waiting for that check to come in. It may or may not on time. But a lot of times, you see the numbers increase as the month goes by. First of the month, everybody gets their check. Working class people are getting their check at the beginning of the month. And then by the end of the month, that check is gone. There's always something that comes up. And I think instead of exacerbating poverty, we should really look at ourselves and see what sacrifices we as people of Bastrop are willing to make for our neighbors. We shouldn't shy away from it. It's not going to go away because we decide we want to shove it somewhere else and not look at the problem. I think this should be a shining example. You can bring examples up here in front of City Council and talk about the arch, but then you can also look at programs like in San Antonio. They have a huge homeless shelter that it's got a rehabilitation focus to it. And people are coming left and right out of there being rehoused and having new jobs. So this location is prime for us getting people over to Texas Workforce Commission. I work personally with Kelly Langley every day getting people sent over there. And sometimes there's just not jobs, there's not job skills. So we have to work on that, and it takes time. As a nurse, I see more than just people with heart disease that aren't being treated, but I treat the spiritual wounds as well. And there's a lot of them, and when people don't think that the city of Bastrop cares about them, they get angry. Shutting down a ministry is going to make that wound open wide open again. It's going to make it so much worse. And like I said, I know all these people personally, and I would vouch for most of them. There's a few of them that are they're fun souls, but I love each and every one of them. And I know who they are as people. They are people. They're not homeless people, they're not elderly, they're not just some poor family. Ignoring the poor doesn't make them go away. Thank you.
Ann, are we out of these? Deborah, you need to fill out a form. Robert Kreibel. Oh, it's got a check. Robert, I can't get got a check out of that, but I see you coming. I know who you are.
Nobody can ever get that. I want to go one thing right off the bat, is these people here are not against these people. It's not about that. Nothing about that. And the next thing of it is, you know, if the zoning law is permitting them to move into that subdivision like that, maybe need to review your zoning law. Well, the first thing of it is, or what they could do with your zoning law, they could take that and move it right there by that school, right down there by the funeral home. What about that? Would y'all like that? I mean, would it matter? You know? And as far as that goes, I told Ronnie that I think it was yesterday, I wish I took the picture. We had one right there at the corner of Jones and Perkins over there in our ex-banker's fence there. And guess what was going on? And I don't want to see it. And I'll tell you what, if I have my grandkids with me and we're going down that road right there, I live right there, I'm the one that's really in bad shape because they're right behind. That's me, 105 Jones. And they're right behind me. And I have an elderly mother-in-law that I take care of. And she's already scared. And like I said, I'm not trying to put these people down. Matter of fact, I hope they do help them somewhere. I mean, but you know, that's not the right place. It's not the right place. First thing it is, if you really look at it, it's for the city's prospect. You have the main drag going through there, and you're going to have them right there. And then you have that parking. I mean, that road gets blocked up with traffic right now. What are you going to do with all that traffic there when they start parking all them cars there? I mean, you're going to have to keep cops there all the time, or they need to be down there directing traffic every day. I don't think you need to have to do that just for them when they could be moved. I'll tell you what, down there by the jailhouse, there's 7 acres just sitting there out of the way. They could put the whole thing over there. Why don't they move over there? I mean, it's real simple. I mean, like I said, we're not against. I listened to this. I'm sorry, I got a little riled up because they want to blame us being cold-hearted and whatever. We're not cold-hearted. It's not about that. It really isn't. And I don't care what color anybody is. It's not about that. I hope that, you know, somebody, you know, if I see them on the street, we go to Austin all the time. What do? You give them $1 out on this road. I mean, you know, so what? It's $1. I had $1 to spare. I got it sitting in the car, you know, car seat there in the console. I give them $1. Bye.
You got 30 seconds, Robert.
Okay, I thought I was going.
Here's the time expired. Maybe I held up the wrong way.
But anyway, that's kind of what I'm getting at. And then I don't want, like I said, we got all them kids there, and and I know they say, well, everybody's not like that. Well, all you need is one. One. What would you do? As being council, say, oh, I think this is a great deal. What would happen if you had one little 17 or 7-year-old girl, something happened to her because somebody come over there and did something to her? Now, how would you feel?
Now your time's really up. Thank you. Deborah Jones.
I live on Pecan Street, and ever since I've lived on Pecan Street, well, actually before that I lived on Main Street, and I remember when you left town to go to Waco, Ken, I took over feeding the homeless guy that lived underneath the church. And I fed him until he moved on. And when I moved over to Pecan Street, we regularly have people show up at our house. So I can clearly tell you that there's people that come to my house on a regular basis, and sometimes even as late as 2 in the morning, and they want something to eat. I don't give people money, but I'll give them food. And I think those of us that have been given a lot, that a lot is expected. And it's not like it's just in your neighborhood. We have on many occasions given shelter to homeless people, to people with mental issues, and helped them move on. And I think that this is something that as a community we can figure out how to work together to make you comfortable or to make you feel safe. But I'm just telling you from personal experience that we have people that are all throughout the community, and I know that I'm not the only person that will reach out and help somebody if they're hungry.
Jimmy Morrow.
I'm a cook, and I cook for the center there. If you would see these people when they come, the look on their faces when you feed them, mothers, kids, and grown-ups as well. I volunteer my time to go there and do this. And I wasn't getting emotional, but if you would see the look on these people's faces when they come in And then when they thank you from the bottom of their heart that you fed them something. It's a gratifying feeling to know that you can do this and help people. And I just want you to know that they need this, regardless of where it's going to be. They do need something like this. Because without this, they would not get fed. And I know there's sometimes I go there, and sometimes I always go there I cook on Thursdays, so a lot of times on Wednesday, I'll go there to see what's there to prepare. Sometimes there's enough food to go around, and other times you have to just kind of imagine and put things together. It's a good thing I'm a cook, because I could put some really pretty good things on the thing for them for the breakfast that they have in the morning. And then sometimes I'll buy stuff and bring it, just to see the look on their faces when they know they have something warm and they can go home with a full stomach. Thank you.
Bill Ennis.
Mr. Mayor, council members, Mr. Talbot, I'm in the strange position of having a unique experience with working with the soup kitchen, if you want to call it that, in Austin. I know the pros and cons, and I've dealt with them for about 15 years. And by dealing with them, I don't mean bad experiences, some bad, some outstanding. I'm here to say that I went to the meeting Thursday, and the neighborhood's concerns are valid. The opportunity to do good from the soup kitchen is beyond question. We have to work together to find solutions. We agreed at the meeting that we would sit down and work on these issues. You've heard all of the concerns tonight. We're Bastropians, we know how to do this. And I'm here to say that I'm going to stick with it as long as it takes to find something that makes everybody comfortable and still gives us the ability to do what Pastor Nava has started and even grow it. And I hope I have y'all's help with that, but those of us who are working on this have your help on that if we need it, and we'll go forward from here.
James Nichols.
Thank you all for giving me a chance to speak. My name is James Nichols. I live on Higgins Street, so it's just one street over. I just kind of feel like that making the people live in this neighborhood kind of look a certain way. Let me assure you that these people are good, honest, hardworking people that care. We're not mad at anybody. But if you could have seen the look on some of these people's face, when I was the one that went around and took the petition, I was asked to do that and was glad to do it. These older people, like myself, we've worked hard all of our lives to have a home and to buy a home. If something happens to me today, I feel like I got some good neighbors like Judy and David. I think they would help take care of Dorothy. To think about a lady my age sleeping in a bed here and no telling how many people in a greenhouse out there, that is not safe. I don't care where you come from. And it's kind of making us look like, well, these people, they don't care. That is the furthest thing from the truth. The incident that happened in the greenhouse did not happen a year and a half ago. It happened just a few months ago in the wintertime. I was the second one that went over and talked to her. And I just want to kind of straighten this out. These people that signed this petition are good, honest, hard-working people. And I appreciate y'all letting me talk.
Council members?
I am very sorry that people who have less to eat than I do have suffered the indignity of having to come up here and justify that they should be considered when it comes to mealtime. Of course that's true. I understand hardworking people also finding this situation very threatening. We all have a place on this earth, and I totally agree with Mr. Ennis and Mr. Liriano that it is the city's responsibility to find a way forward so that everybody's happy. We all count. We all should be able to eat. This is the richest country in the world. We are so blessed in Bastrop, Texas. There is room for all of us, and there is plenty for all of us to eat. No one should have to suffer the indignity of coming here and trying to justify food, and no one should feel unsafe. So I am asking the city manager, please, would you work with me and several of the other council members? I know Ms. Gilliland will be interested, to try and find a way to make everybody happy. And Pastor Nava, I know you will work hard to find a solution. We all need to have a solution. And thank you all for coming. This is the most important thing, is that we realize not everybody here gets a meal every day. We've got to recognize that. It's the truth. And thank you for coming.
Ms. McAnally, thank you for those words. And one thing that you can be assured of, you will have the full force of my office behind you. I agree with everything that you say, and I'll make an observation. In 10 years I've been here, at the budget time, we fund community services. I have never seen a group this large come out and express a community need that has been expressed here tonight.
Gary?
Yeah, I'd like to say, first of all, that I have a lot of respect for Pastor Nava for what he's doing. And, you know, I think if you, obviously if you live in the neighborhood, it's one of those things, seems like anything that we want to do, it's okay. We want you to do these things, but don't do it in our neighborhood. And I would really ask the neighbors, the neighborhoods, to really search deep in your heart as far as what's going on here. I mean, we're talking about breakfast and lunch. We're not talking about a shelter, people living there, sleeping there at nighttime. They come in, they have their breakfast, they have lunch. I really think that if we see vagrancy happening after the lunch period is over, that the police should be able to deal with that. And certainly I'd like to hear from our city manager and from our director of public safety about safety issues with an operation such as that. But it appears to me that there's really a conflict here in what the reality is and what the perception is. It seems to me, and you know, maybe I need to put my eyes on it closer, but it seems to me that if we have a food service operation happening for lunch, for breakfast and for lunch, that during those periods, it should be pretty easy to watch over the neighborhood during other parts of the day. And if there's crime that's happening in that neighborhood that's been happening before the kitchen got there, it's not related to this issue. You know, I just really acknowledge that we have a social service that's being provided by Pastor Nava and his group that's not a burden on our city, on our county, that these volunteer people are doing such a service for people that really have a need. And I'd ask the neighborhood look a little deeper. I would live in that neighborhood. You can come to my neighborhood. I don't have a problem with that, because I'm you know, the Lord says to love your neighbor as yourself. And, you know, what are we doing if we're putting our own issues ahead of taking care of those in need? I mean, we all had needs at some point in our life, and somebody, if everybody in here can think of somebody that made the difference in their life between going this way and going that way. And, you know, I just am really thankful for people that do the Lord's work in this way and in a lot of other ways. And it's not a burden on us. I mean, the amount of burden that it's going to put on that neighborhood, I think, is minuscule compared to the amount of good that it does. And I just would ask the neighbors, look a little deeper in your hearts, people. You know, who are we? You know, when was the last time you missed a meal? You know, put yourself in their position and think about where you would be if you didn't have a resource like this. And that's what I have to say.
Let me just say, we can stay here all night. I hope maybe this is the last citizen comment, but if somebody's got something to say that hasn't been said, we sure want to hear it. Samuel Daly.
My name's Samuel Daly. I work for Clay Richardson Construction, contractor with Blue on it. All I want to say is I work my butt off every day, 6-7 days a week, to provide for myself. I make the money to feed myself, but all my money goes to my mom to help her. Nava gives me the lunch to feed myself when I can't afford it. You know, I've met the homeless. They're good people. They're good-hearted. There's some of them out there that do work that they still can't afford it, just like I can afford it. But all my money goes to help my mom, and Brother Nava already knows. So, you know, I do work hard, obviously, but that's all I have to say is, you know, I can afford it, but then he helps me give me my lunch because my money goes to my mom. Thank you.
Thank you. Doc.
I'll be brief. I mean, after listening to all these things that have been said tonight by the council and by the citizens and people from the soup kitchen, it's indeed a great need that we have in our community. I know that this need exists, and I'm glad that we're having this discussion. It's unfortunate that people are still suffering in our community and in this country that is one of the richest countries, as our council member has said. But hunger does exist in our community. I've seen it, and homelessness exists as well. Now that we've gotten down to the rules of basically finding out that this is a soup kitchen and it will not have people living there and everything, I hope that the neighbors will think twice about the decisions and to really think about what's going on. I understand their fears and their frustration, but I also understand the needs of the hunger and the people that are needing food. I didn't want to say this, but once a month, there's a little lady that comes to Bastrop that lost her home here. She was evicted. You've probably seen her walking the streets at least once a month that comes into town. I take her to my home. I feed her. She doesn't have a place to stay. She doesn't have food, but yet I take care of her, and I don't have a problem having her in my home. She's not related. I went to church with her at one time, and I knew her, but she is trying to come back to Bastrop, but there's no place for her to stay. There's no job for her. She's an elderly lady, and she goes and stays. She comes here to be with her daughter who's in the nursing home. She's been staying in all-night restaurants until they've closed down. She goes into Austin. She's got other families that have taken care of her, but there's such a need in our community for not only for homeless people, but for people that need food. And that's just something that we need to come to grips with in our community. It's something that we need to really think long and hard on and try to erase that. I know one at a time we can make a difference and we can make this happen, but let's look at that, because some of us are fortunate that we do have jobs and we work and we haven't seen that much hunger. But there are people out there that I know and that we all know that are struggling and that do not have the food. Until Pastor Nava came along, and of course the food pantry that we have and others, we did not have this, and there were so many people that were doing without. I'd hate to shut this down. I'd hate to see this come to an end. So I hope that, as Mike has said, our city manager and the other council members, that we'll come together as a community and make something happen so that these people will not go on without another day without food. If this facility doesn't work out because of the neighborhood, let's pull together and make a place where they can work together so that they can have the food and the justice and that they need. So I'm encouraging everyone to come together to work with the city, with Pastor Nava, with Mr. Ennis, and all the people that have spoken that really want to make a difference. But let's not stop here with just talking. Let's make it happen.
I think council's had a chance to speak. I'm going to wrap this up and say I appreciate everybody's involvement today. I want to first of all thank Mr. Landrum and the neighbors of his neighbors for not just for coming to the mayor and saying, what can we do? And having a conversation about that and talking about your needs. As you said, I want to thank Pastor Nava, Mr. Ladd, and others who came representing the ministry to meet with a number of the neighbors in the Landrum's home. It showed a great deal of concern on everybody's part. I want to thank Bill Ennis for stepping up in the middle of that meeting and saying that he wanted to try to figure out some way to find an answer. Bill knows, Ronnie knows, Roland knows, Ralph knows that I'm going to work with y'all and anybody else to try to figure out a way for us to truly serve the needs of all 8,000 citizens in this community. We have, I think we have an opportunity to do that. My first stops, or my next stop is going to be at Mike's office, and got some thoughts for him, and I know his brain's cooking pretty fast. I think the council has expressed itself in terms of wanting to figure out some way to make this whole thing work for the benefit of everyone. So I know we have spent a little over an hour and a half on this, but I don't know what better place there is to have a conversation. I thought you didn't want to talk.
I just want to add one thing.
Okay, wait, let me finish this thought, because I'm going to call a recess in a second. I don't know a better place to have this conversation than in the city hall, with as many people who want to come, as many people as want to speak on all sides of the issues. If we can, this is not the only problem and difficulty we have in this community, at least people calling and fussing at me, I think would prove that. But this is the way we settle problems. I love that Bill said we're Bastropians. We know how to do this. We do. We don't know right now, but we do. After Kelly speaks, we're going to take a break.
Yeah, just briefly, I want to thank you, Mayor, for allowing everyone to take the amount of time that they needed to express themselves, because sometimes I know it seems like we just rush you through it. And thank you for being so vocal about your needs on both sides. And I just want you to know that while we were sitting here, I've come up with a couple maybe crazy ideas, but I'm going to share them with the city manager that might be a solution that keeps everybody happy. So please, let's do a workshop or another meeting where we can sit down some more and brainstorm this some more.
It's a great thought, Kelly. There is no stupid, crazy, or dumb ideas. All there is ideas to try to bring us all together and do what this community needs. So thank you all. We're going to be in recess for 5 minutes. corporation to make his...
John, I'm sorry.
Okay, oh well.
Mayor, council, community, thank y'all for having me. It's been another month, and so I'm going to keep this brief. If y'all have questions, I don't want to drag this out. We are working on the ad hoc bylaw committee. Steve is going to make the 2 community member appointments by the end of this week. They did complete my performance review, and there'll be more information coming out about that. The Bastrop Youth Career Day is scheduled for May 18th. There is a planning meeting tomorrow in our office, and then we will have another meeting getting the community partners that are going to help us with that the day of the 18th. As we've said before, the adult job fair was pushed back to October 1st. We did had Gene Riemann-Snyder, who heads up our education and workforce development programs, did a program last night for the board educating them on an update on our education and workforce programs and where we're at and what we're doing. The live stream, we do record our meetings, and so the recording is up on the YouTube channel that it's hosted on BTXN, and it'll be on the television as a replay. If you're interested in that portion of it, the video is out there. We are doing more business retention and expansion outreach. We were a little bit delayed launching that program until the first part of this year. We'd hoped to get it off last fall, but we did 4 community events in the last month and had 10 BRE visits last month, and we're real proud that program has gotten off the ground, and we're able to get out and visit with our local businesses and really visit with them about what their needs are and what our future is and how we can help address the issues that they're facing, help promote them in the various ways that we can. So with that, I wanted to keep it short. If y'all do have questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Questions? Advice, comments, stuff you want to refer? Thank you, Sean.
Thank y'all.
Councilmember McIntyre will introduce the next presentation.
Hi, we are going to have a report that the Vision Task Force has been working on some time. It's actually an update of the report that was given a few months back, but we didn't get to finish. So John Landwehr from Coast Range Investments is our new chairperson. We have been, we're no longer a task force, we're actually a city board now, and an advisory board to council. We're very proud of that. And I want to thank all the people who have come together to show support for a DMO. Task force has been working on this since 2013. The chamber now is also very supportive of a DMO. We're glad to see, and we have the unique and wonderful opportunity here for so many of us to put our 2 cents in about how we think a destination marketing organization should work. And the marketing subcommittee at the Vision Task Force has put this together, and John is going to tell us about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Kay.
You're on, John.
Mayor, council, city manager, thank you for having us, and thank you for the Vision Task Force to present tonight. What we've done is we provided in the council packets the report that was provided by the subcommittee of the Vision Task Force. I'm presenting up here tonight just a summary of that rather than sitting up here and reading that verbatim. I thought it'd be easier and I'd get through it quickly. As Kay mentioned, the Vision Task Force was created as an ad hoc task force that was really trying to be a vision master planning group for the city. Part of that was tasked with enhancing Bastrop's marketing efforts. As Kay mentioned, we've now become an official entity. We currently serving Councilwoman Garcia McAnally, Martha Harris, Dick Smith, Becky Womble, Nancy Wood, and myself. We are also recommending Tricia Silva tonight for
one more on the way.
Correct. Tonight's report, as was mentioned, was a continuation of reports and of suggestions to move towards a DMO. I know there's a lot of suggestions and a lot of talk about marketing, using the hotel occupancy taxes and how to best do that. I think there's definitely a need to move to some sort of entity that's managing that. The VTF has done a tremendous amount of research and spent a tremendous amount of time, especially the subgroups that have been working on this report, and that has been seen in multiple kind of reports to the city. I'll move through these pieces relatively quickly. It's just the background pieces. Bastrop is in a very unique situation as a tremendous opportunity because of the Hyatt Lost Pines and because of the marketing agreement that was put in place in 2003. Generally, its initial goal was to establish and promote regional tourism, growth in regional tourism. I think that everyone can agree that the development of the destination marketing that really went through the BMC and through the Hyatt is a success. It has considerable issues as it's grown, and there's some inefficiencies, but I agree, I think everyone can agree that the Hyatt's been a great asset to this community. It's something that's very unique to a town the size of Bastrop, and I think a lot of the issues arise with some of the efficiencies of pieces that aren't specifically related to that agreement with the Hyatt. This just shows it's very summarized, but it really shows that this partnership was a great plan when it started out. It's grown and it still has tremendous amount of asset for this community. And I'm going to kind of go through a little bit of structure of how we have seen the structure kind of develop over time. The original structure was focused on destination marketing. It was very successful, but it's evolved as other pieces have been included into that overall plan. The structure as I see it does not have an overall strategic plan. Its allocations in some cases are really determined independently with minimal accountability to an overall plan. What this has evolved into is a continued strong regional marketing provided by the Hyatt through the BMC as was originally contemplated, and then a patchwork of individual marketing efforts that's led to really a lack of a singular destination marketing, tourism marketing brand that everybody has used and contain. This is just a visual representation of what I'm trying to explain here. Is we've got, I don't know which button it is, but you've got your hotel occupancy tax that is really the city council is the steward of those funds. Those funds through agreement run, or a portion of those funds run to the Hyatt and the BMC. The Hyatt and the BMC are really tasked with regional destination marketing. They have put together a plan and they utilize third-party consultants, in this case, for advertising and PR. The other pieces of the pie, to lack of a better term, have been added as we've gone through this process. They are not truly a part of that partnership agreement, but are separate entities and separate pieces. They are not following a strategic plan. They are they're following the statute as the hotel occupancy tax allows, but they're not following a plan. And I think that's where the inefficiencies really lie with the hotel occupancy tax, and really when we're talking about a destination marketing group. Where does the Vision Task Force want to go? I think generally everybody agrees is to grow tourism, to really fuel that mechanism, because that brings dollars, that affects major businesses like the Hyatt down to relatively smaller businesses in primary and secondary ways. So growing Bastrop, how do we do that? We do it through cohesive marketing through the region and creating a destination tourism, fueling the convention center and tourism traffic, as well as keeping Bastrop Bastrop. So nurturing Bastrop's identity, and ensuring an effective and hopefully an efficient use of as many of those funds as we possibly can. How do we get there? Really, it goes back again to deploying that under a comprehensive integrated marketing plan. The VTF has said, let's do this through creating Destination Bastrop. That we've heard DMO used quite a bit. That's what this is a destination marketing organization to manage, oversee, and coordinate Bastrop's marketing and sales initiatives. This is a management group. This is a single responsible entity that is responsible for managing those funds. It needs to be a dedicated, when I say local, I mean somebody that's here, boots on the ground, talking with all of the stakeholders, being able to understand what all the issues are, being responsible to not only the city, but the stakeholder panel. And I'll get into how we're suggesting we go about creating that. From that entity, basically developing and implementing this brand and strategy that is really following. I'll keep on going back to that, but that's the core understanding of setting up a system that allows us to make decisions based on that agreed upon system. As well as if we have a dedicated local individual or somebody that's here full time, we have somebody that can listen and educate the local organizations and be a part of the community, talking about the plan and assisting their efforts in marketing. Destination Bastrop, or Bastrop's DMO. These are the kind of the key pieces, and I did reference all of the report pages in this little presentation here if you want to follow along. Basically, it's formed to develop and market a tourism destination. It's a city-run enterprise. Really what we're trying to get to there is it doesn't need to be a full department. This is an individual or maybe a little bit of a support staff or a piece of support staff from the city. But it needs to be, if it's an in-house or an out-of-house group, it needs to be somebody that is responsible, that is on the ground here. Third-party consultant that isn't spending a considerable amount of time in the city is going to be a hard thing, especially early on, to understand that. In this case, we're suggesting that Destination Bastrop is funded entirely by the HOT, the hotel occupancy tax, and again, lightly staffed. This entity will then contract, just as the BMC does, just as the Hyatt does, or did, and just as the Hyatt does, these third-party services. This person isn't going to be the one-stop shop that's going to be coming up with ideas and drawing out brands and doing the PR. This is the person that's managing those third-party groups. And then this entity is the one that is designing and placing all of this destination marketing, all of this distance advertising, and then collaborating and with the event people, with the different programs, with the different organizations to place that marketing and then to help them, assist them if there is the ability of a little crossover there in their marketing. How we've kind of laid out a structure is the authority. Truthfully, the city of Bastrop is the recipients of the fund. They're the ultimate stewards of those revenues. So we believe the responsibility lies with the city, and it can't go anywhere else. Destination Bastrop will be led under the framework of the city staff, really led by what we're terming an executive administrator, appointed by the council, that was recommended by the city manager, who works under the city manager's staff. This is really a continuation of the existing marketing that is being done, but it's really making sure that we're applying an overall strategy to all of the entities that are funded by the hotel occupancy tax. What we envision and we understand is the stakeholder panel. There's a lot of people, a lot of businesses that rely on tourism, and we need to make sure that stakeholder panel really is a part of this initial development of this executive administrator, as well as kind of working through the strategy and creating the plan over time. We've envisioned that a group of stakeholders could look like this. The Hyatt obviously should be a contributor to that stakeholder panel. Other lodging, other hotels that pay into the hotel occupancy tax. The Downtown Business Alliance, the Chamber of Commerce, of course, the Main Street program, including an individual from the art community, as well as a city council and city manager representative. This is again, my best take at trying to show this visually, what we're trying to look at here. The hotel occupancy tax, again, the city council is a steward of that. They have ultimate control of those funds. But what we've inserted here is the DMO, is this destination Bastrop. That's this small staff of one that is responsible to the stakeholder panel, as well as ultimately responsible to the city council in approving budgets and the overall plans. And then they're driving the market plan, the budgeting, the advertising. I'm not saying they're doing all of those pieces, but they're now the ones contracting with the third parties. They're the ones doing the daily business of marketing. And then when the monies go out, it's all done under a plan, under a strategic plan. And these are just representative of some of the different pieces that have a stake in this. And so what we're trying to do is get away from kind of one-off decisions made that continually come up to the council into more having it under a strategic plan that is created not tonight, not in the near term, but is created down the road with stakeholder input and then eventually approved by the city council. Really, span of control is really how is the plan implemented? What is this DMO really wanting to do? Really, truly, the DMO is about distance marketing. It's about bringing people from out of the community into the community, i.e. tourism. And so that, in this case, because of the convention center, that also would include the oversight of sales and marketing of that convention center, as well as bringing in and making sure that the visitor center and information is part of that overall strategy. The other piece of this is, I believe, the Hyatt is a critical part of this program, and having a relationship built with them is something where then this entity can go and have those discussions of how we want to work on the contractual obligations or contractual relationships that the city has with the Hyatt. Next steps, and I'm trying to work through this quickly, so please stop me if you have any questions or concerns. But generally, the next steps that what we're pushing for, and I think what generally the consensus is we need to have everybody's input, but we need to start moving towards really setting up a DMO, or really starting to move down this process. So what we envisioned, if it was a city in-house entity, is direct the city manager to retain a consultant. What that consultant's job is to really identify, conduct research on this executive administrator position, as well as convene a board of stakeholders. Have them help the city manager and this consultant create that scope of service, what that individual will be tasked with doing. And then at the recommendation of the city manager, hire that executive administrator. At that point, it moves then to the business of that individual identifying what are the components, gathering all the information, meeting with the stakeholders, and when I say stakeholders, I mean everybody involved and has a place here, not just the people that would be on the panel. Getting all that information, taking what the priorities of the city council are, and then convening that stakeholder panel for the purpose of really generating a cohesive strategy and plan, taking that then to the city council for approval, and then implementing that plan over time. That administrator is envisioned to be somebody that is acting and under this plan that's been approved by the city, but then providing reports through either the city manager or directly to the city council. And again, if there's any comments, I went relatively quickly, but.
Questions or comments, Gary?
Yeah, how does this plan compare to what was prepared by the Chamber of Commerce?
I don't know the specifics, and I think they can really lay that out for you. Generally, I think what they would prefer to do, and I think they would like to bring the stakeholders in early in the process to help define what the mission and goal is, to bring a consultant in to start directing that and decide what directions we want to go. Again, I'll leave that to them to talk about it. I think they're here to talk about it. But it's really, is this an in-house entity or is this an out-of-house entity? Is this something that is very similar to the EDC in structure? Or is it something that's actually, to lack of a better term, a city department? Is it actually in-house? And when I'm saying in-house, I'm not saying that the marketing and all of those design pieces are done in-house, but that overall, the hot funds are managed in-house. What we've looked at and what was been recommended to the VTF was an in-house entity that, because the city is responsible for those funds, it is really then managing those, the arguments of efficiencies and whatnot. I think if you go either way, in-house or out-of-house, you're going to need an individual, somebody that's responsible. There's a point person that's responsible for the group. You have some issues relating to the facilities owned by the city but paid for through hotel occupancy taxes, the convention center and some other pieces that are a big chunk of those funds. And do you allow a separate entity to control those funds, even though they're under the liabilities of the city, debt and operation and those things? Typically, that's how it's done. Typically, you've got a kind of a convention center department, and then you've got a marketing entity. Because generally, cities don't do them together. In this case, they're kind of intermingled, and so it could be done, and I think it could be done very well in a singular entity, but that's generally not the norm.
Anybody else? Okay.
Yeah, I think accountability of those funds is sort of, at least for the Vision Task Force, the people who developed this, what we think is, at least in the beginning few years, that the accountability belongs at city council level. Someone has to be accountable for those funds, since city council is responsible for those funds and stewarding them. So the department, whatever it is, needs to have some oversight by the people who were responsible for the funds. That doesn't mean it has to stay a city department forever. It wouldn't, or a city enterprise forever. That just means that until we all know what we're doing, then we need expertise and we need oversight. That's what that means. It doesn't mean it's forever. It means it's for now. This is going to evolve. This DMO is going to evolve as we go over through the years. Right now, we're lucky enough to have people at the Hyatt that are tourism experts. I know the Chamber's focus is on business. The Hyatt's focus is on tourism. Obviously, those things have some lap over, but I think we need to listen to the experts in tourism and at the same time have the oversight that we should have, because we're responsible for those funds. I don't want to think that someone else gets to figure out what to do with that when we're responsible for the people's money.
Yeah, I would say, oh, you're right, Kay. Ultimately, whatever we do, City Council's got to be responsible and accountable for the money. Anything else?
I have a question for you, John. Has the Vision Task Force incorporated or given any thought to the marketing person that is going to be cited at the Hyatt or trained by Hyatt personnel? Or the person that we discussed at the last meeting.
Are you talking about the sales?
Yes,
Person?
the
for-
salesperson.
For the convention center?
Yes.
I wasn't a part of those conversations.
That's a Mike, I think that's a Mike, and that's a Mike call, I think, right there.
That's Mike.
So where does it fall in that?
So as it exists, and I'll apologize, it's a very simple diagram. I was just trying to lay it out. But right now, it's really, there we go. The funding source goes per agreement or potentially amended agreement to the Hyatt, or it comes out of that, and then runs to a salesperson, how I understand it. I'm not sure how it will be amended, but basically would run this way, okay? And that in a good thing is a part of kind of their marketing plan. I think I think having the help from the Hyatt, they do this very well. They do groups exceptionally well, and having them be a part of that, especially in this, to Kay's point, in this interim piece, this transition as we grow and the DMO kind of evolves, I don't think we're going to be able to come up with a 100% plan today without having a stakeholder panel convened and have these pieces worked out without some help and people that do this. But does that help you? I mean, right, basically it runs that way.
Yeah, that answers my question. I was just wondering if that salesperson, I want to say marketing, but salesperson would end up reporting to a Hyatt person, reporting to the director of the DMO, reporting to the convention center. I just wondered if you'd fit that in yet.
So in the case of the current structure, I'm not sure where it lies, but in what I'm eventually moving to is, or what the VTF is relatively recommending is the DMO is responsible for the convention center almost in whole.
I got it.
Okay? And so they are responsible if they choose, and if the Hyatt would be willing to provide that expertise or that help in that, they contract through agreement with the Hyatt to manage that person or to do it that way. But ultimately, the responsibility flows back up through the DMO up to the city council and then back down, rather than one-off agreements.
I will say, Gary mentioned another report we had last meeting. We're, in the process of deciding about hiring a consultant to figure out how to get going so we can figure out what we're doing. But having the ability to gather information as we go along is very helpful. I mean, the more ideas we have when we get down to the hard work of figuring out what to do, the more ideas, at least in my mind, the more ideas we have, the better, because I'm an information gatherer, and you can't make up stuff you don't know, but you can weed through what is given to you. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
I wanted to say, Kay and I had dueling introductions. She wanted to introduce this presentation. I was going to introduce it by saying that I want to thank Kay for having the idea, in the first place for having Vision Task Force, and the council just ran with it. It's exactly what we asked and exactly what she did, and we found a way to listen as she worked through it until we finally had enough sense to realize this is a great idea. A think tank for a permanent part of our city organizational structure is something we needed, which we did in December, and y'all got organized this month, and I want to thank you for being willing to be the first official chair of that organization. So thank you very much. We yeah, are you done? Thanks. We have a couple of people who want to talk about this. Deborah Johnson.
Thank you, Deborah Johnson. And I'm not here representing any organization for a change. I'm just here representing myself as a very concerned business owner who depends desperately on tourist dollars to pay the bills. I do have a really good, strong group of local clients, but the fact is tourism makes a difference. I'm confused, I'm frustrated, quite frankly, I'm angry. Because you guys and councils before you knew that we would be coming to this day a long time ago. And you and they ignored it, put it off, to the point that we had to renegotiate our contract with the Hyatt to keep things going. I think the chamber brought a very good, sound proposal to you last week with a good plan, with good backup. The Vision Task Force told you 2 years ago or longer that we needed a DMO, and I watched Councilwoman Garcia ask over and over again that this be dealt with, and it wasn't dealt with. What I can tell you is right now, walk through traffic, my observation is that it's down. I count sales daily, I count sales dollars daily, and I count the number of people who walk into my gallery daily, and I'm open 7 days a week. And I can tell you that the traffic in this March is is slightly over half of what it was last month to date. And I don't understand what's going on. But I do know that I'm tired of the council mulling, and I'm tired of you collectively talking about what we're going to do, and you now have 2 different proposals on how to go about doing it. And quite frankly, both proposals talk to a lot of citizens and a lot of business owners, and I think it's time to get something done and to set something in place. Because otherwise, if you walk down the street right now, there's a lot of empty buildings because several businesses have gone out of business. It's vitally important that this town have tourism. And I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's because the new contract with the Hyatt has a different emphasis. I don't know if it's because there's no organization putting flyers in the travel centers. I don't know if it's because we don't have a current shopping guide that shows what's actually open and what's not. I don't know if it's because we don't have any Yesterfest advertising happening yet. I don't know what's going on, but all I do know is if something doesn't happen quickly, there will be more businesses downtown closing up. So, thank you.
Jamie Haney.
Like Deborah, I'm not here representing an organization other than my own small business. And I will tell you, I do have marketing experience myself, but none of us are experts in this and what we're trying to do right now. A destination marketing organization is a totally new thing to all of us. I think it's critical that we bring the stakeholders in earlier and not just those that pay the hot funds. There's a lot of businesses that support the hotels, whether it's restaurants, retailers, other service businesses. I refer a lot of people to the downtown Bastrop area myself. And marketing a destination like the Hyatt is a lot different from marketing Bastrop or even a total region. The Hyatt markets their family weekends, 4th of July, their Christmas parties. They're trying to get people into the Hyatt, and that makes sense. It's a great place to go. But marketing Bastrop is a lot different. There are a lot of interesting tourist attractions in this area that aren't necessarily represented at the Hyatt. We have the dinosaur park that's out in Cedar Creek. There's a lot of little ranches and different places for people to go, and those are the businesses that other people want to come see. They want to visit the small businesses in the community. So establishing the DMO as a city department to me reduces the ability to react, and I really liked what the organizations were talking about with the food pantry here tonight, and to me that's what a city should be doing, is providing services for its citizens.
Thank you. Lee Harrell.
Hi, thank you all. I'll start, Gary, you had asked some of the prime differences between what the chamber was presenting a couple weeks ago and what y'all saw tonight. I think the main differences, and there's not a whole lot, but the main differences are, number one, what we had presented was, we feel more inclusive, more industries being involved, and it opens up the process to more people earlier on. And number two, it doesn't, what we presented doesn't assume a preferred structure. We never suggested a structure. We said that there are numerous structures out there, and I've talked to people across the state that work for different organizations of different structures. There's numerous structures out there, and it's working for other communities, and most of them are not city departments. So before we move forward with the city department, whether that's what we end up doing or not, we owe it to the people that are impacted by what is going to happen and what are we going to do moving forward. People who have bet their lives on it by moving here and starting a business that is a tourism business. We owe it to them to explore all the other options before we do something that is not the preferred method. So that's what I have to say about that. On another note, as a tourism business in town, I will tell you that the River Company had a great spring break, and people are coming to Bastrop. And they're coming here from all over the place, and they're finding out about us all different kinds of ways. Last week was very encouraging for me, and I look forward to moving forward and seeing this town really harness the tourism industry and make it work for us. Thank you.
Thank you. We have no proclamations. Citizens' comments is an opportunity for anyone to speak on a subject that is not on the agenda. We have a new policy that if somebody on the council knows somebody wants to speak, we list it. Is Laura Hammonds in the house? She called and talked to me about, said she would come tonight to talk about, she thinks that cockfighting roosters are being abandoned along the 1200 block of Buttonwood in front of her house. So I will pass on that. Do we have any other citizens' comments? It's not really on the agenda. But you can talk about anything you want to under citizens' comments if it's not on the agenda. This is not exactly on the agenda. We have a policy whereby if somebody tells us they're going to come speak about a specific topic under citizens' comments, we treat it just like citizens' comments, but we have to list it on the agenda. So we passed a rule saying that. So anybody can sign up for citizens' comments, and even about chickens if you want to, because it's not really on the agenda. Well, Deborah Johnson, chickens, you're right here.
Let's talk about ducks. No. Since I saw chickens on the agenda, I just had a conversation this morning with 3 of the city staff people about the issues. I live at 1109 Pecan, and there are chickens. It's a good thing. It's too much of a good thing. I love the chicken sanctuary. I love the chickens. They're beautiful chickens. But there are too many of them. They're out of control. I have been talking to my pest control people. Chickens cause an increase in rodents because rodents like to eat chicken poop. Chickens cause an increase in fleas because they have fleas and they fluff them around and they spread fleas around. So there's a health issue in there. It's also, I think, frankly, cruel because there are more roosters than there are hens, and they are terrorizing the hens. So, but I was told by the staff people that the city animal control can do nothing about the chickens. So I'm just putting it out there that somebody needs to do something about the chickens that are not in the sanctuary. And I don't know what to do. And they start crowing at 2 o'clock in the morning, and it's not a pleasant experience, and a lot of you know that. So, thank you.
Debbie Moore.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. I want to tell you a little story real quickly. My son, for the 2nd year in a row last January, signed up to do a 3.3-mile swim across Tampa Bay in support of the Navy SEAL Foundation. They support family members whose husbands and dads and children have been killed in the line of duty. They got rained and they had winds, so they couldn't swim this year, so they had a reception. And he was talking to a family, and have y'all heard of the movie The Lone Survivor, or read the book, The Lone Survivor? Well, he met the parents of Danny Dietz, who lost his life in Operation Red Wings on June the 8th, 2005. And in talking to his mom, he said, well, where do you live? And she said, well, right outside of Austin. He said, well, my mom lives right outside of Austin. Where do you live? And she said, Bastrop. So we have not one, but we have 2 Gold Star families in the city of Bastrop. And what I'm here to tell you about is that I am pleased to help Don March, the stepdad of Danny Dietz, in support of Ken Meyer, who is doing a 628-mile walk from Conroe through Bastrop County to Austin and then down to the Frog Festival. And he'll be here on April the 23rd, and the money that they raise will help raise awareness of post-traumatic stress in our veterans, and the fact that between 19 and 22 veterans a day commit suicide. And then part of the money will also go to the Lone Survivor Foundation to help wounded veterans to get their lives back together again. And we don't have all the details yet, but we know he'll be here April 23rd at 3 o'clock, and we're going to meet on the bridge, on the Matt Mills Bridge, which I think is pretty fitting, and go to Viejos afterwards. So as plans develop, and I know a little bit more, I'll keep you involved. But I wanted to let you know that this is happening, and I wanted to pass this out.
Thank you. Becky Womble.
As someone who frequently watches these council meetings from home, I want to take a lesson from Councilman Jackson and be sure I introduce myself to the audience that might be watching at home. My name is Becky Womble. I'm the president and CEO of the Bastrop Chamber of Commerce. And speaking of gathering information, I am currently working with Adina Lewis, the Bastrop County Tourism Director, and Sarah Page, the Executive Director of the Texas Association of Convention and Visitors Bureaus, to bring Destination Marketing Principles, a workshop, to Bastrop, Texas. It will be held on Friday, April 29th from 8:30 to 5 p.m. Of course, we don't have the final numbers for registration yet, but based on the numbers from Tyler, Texas and Sweetwater, Oklahoma, we fully expect 75 to 150 people, experts on CVBs and DMOs from across the state of Texas, to be in Bastrop, Texas. This is a tremendous opportunity for us to attract these kind of professionals from Central Texas and South Texas. With an early AM start, we have confirmed 2 blocks of rooms at 2 hotels, and we're working on a 3rd. Because of the early arrival on Thursday and having this workshop on a Friday, we fully expect people to stay over into the weekend and experience Bastrop, creating additional night stays. We have confirmed speakers: Mark Thompson from the Visit Plano, Shannon Overby from the from the Bryan College Station CVB, Drew Holgreen, this was just today, from the Belmont Ice House, and we're still working on presenters from the Texas Film Commission and the Texas Independence Trail. As Bastrop moves forward in creating a DMO, I highly recommend that you mark your calendars for Friday, April 29th to gather more information.
Thank you.
Yeah, what's the location, Becky?
Currently, we have it scheduled at the Hampton Inn in their meeting room, and we're still working on all the details for that. Thursday night will be a meet and greet at Neighbors. We have Bastrop River Company offering free boat rides, so we fully plan on giving them the Bastrop experience.
Thank you. Carlos Liriano.
Well, now I'm here to address the issue that I came with tonight. Bastrop has issues all over the place, from DMOs to water issues to job creation to all sorts of different things. And I just want to come tonight to ask you to please keep recreation as a priority. Recreation for our kids and our citizens is a big issue for us. So I'm just going to ask that as the discussion about the why and all of the discussion that took place over the last 6 months or what have you have come to somewhat of an end, the issue of recreation for our citizens has not. So please keep recreation as a priority as you move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any sort of update on planning, the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee? Okay, and Mike, would you, okay, so you can, why don't you, well, it's in your report, we have a meeting coming up, correct?
Yes.
So that's the next thing.
Yeah, steering committee, March 30th at 6 p.m. in this building right here.
All right, Mike, the next two items are yours.
Yes, this is the fun part. Trey, would you mind coming up, please? It's always...
Mike, would you wait a second? Chief, one of the council members is raising a point of personal privilege, which is it's kind of cold in here. Is there something that you or somebody back there could do about that? And that is a parliamentary procedure, parliamentary request, I think. So I would appreciate your back. Thank you for letting me interrupt you.
Sure. We like to recognize our employees when they achieve a goal in their career, and we strive for our employees to achieve these goals. And so tonight it gives me great pleasure to present two certificates to two individuals who have worked very hard to achieve the certificates that I'm about to give them. First, I'd like Jason O'Farrell to come up, if you would please. Jason has received the National Recreation and Park Association, has met the requirements of the standards set forth by the National Certification Board, and is hereby granted certification as a certified park and recreational professional. And that does not come easy, and that's an outstanding achievement on his part.
Allow that?
I'm sorry, when I saw that on the agenda, I know the hard work to get a CPRP. That's the highest ranking you can get in the Parks and Recreation field, and there are directors across the state of Texas that don't have that certification. It takes lots of hard work, determination, and I am so proud that we have a CPRP in Bastrop. And so I just applaud you for that. Hopefully this will address some of the other issues of recreation that we're needing and lacking in Bastrop, and I think under Jason's leadership, with the skills and knowledge that he's received, that we'll get that. But this is nothing to sneeze at. The CPRP is the highest ranking you can get. Many, many hours of hard work and lots of training and continued certification to keep it, though, too. So I hope the city will support you in getting the training that's needed to keep that certification current. Thank you.
Absolutely. Also, it gives me great pleasure to ask Curtis Hancock to come up here. Curtis has been working on his certification for a Class B wastewater operator, and I am proud that I have received on his and be able to present to him from the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, be it known that Curtis L. Hancock, has fulfilled the requirements in accordance with the laws of the state of Texas for a Class B wastewater treatment operator, and his license number. We appreciate the council supporting our training budget so our employees can obtain these types of certifications.
I like it, Mike. Coach them and grow them up and keep them here.
That's right.
We have a few targets for meetings. You know, we have a special meeting next Tuesday to talk about whether we want to have a bond election, what we might put on it, preliminary process. Mike's got a good idea of how to work that out. And also, Mike wants to have a meeting on 2 days later to let anybody in the community say anything they think about what ought to go into a request for what do you call it, RFP,
Yes.
for a DMO professional to help us through this process. Yes.
May I interrupt for a second?
Sure. You don't have to interrupt, I'll call on you.
Okay. A request that I sent to the city manager. I don't know if he's had a chance to look at that. But one of the things, he gave us a list of items that he suggested would be good for our list. And I thought it would be really helpful if we could see what projects were already underway, which one, at various stages, so that we could really look at the ones, if they're pretty much already being done, let's focus on the ones that aren't being done and decide what needs to be done there. So
In terms of the bond?
On the bond issue list he gave us.
Breaking them up into 3 categories for you. So
Okay, that's great. I appreciate it. Thank you.
So you have it in advance, okay.
Mayor, could you clarify what times these meetings are supposed to be?
Well, we didn't agree. I think we agreed that we would stick with 6 o'clock for workshops and 6:30 for council meetings.
So the second workshop on the 31st, is that also 6 o'clock?
I think that would, Mike?
It's 6 o'clock.
That's your intention?
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. I think the council did not want to have a set meeting time for everything. But I think what we kind of agreed was 6 o'clock workshops, 6:30 council meetings. And just for us to try to, and as far as I know, that was the kind of consensus. Okay, Mike, city manager's report.
I'm going to just hit a couple of the...
I'm sorry, Clement. I'm sorry, Kelly wasn't there, I'm sorry.
Since we did not discuss the date of the 31st, I'm not going to be available, and so, just so you all know, I've asked Mike if that meeting can be filmed just like these meetings so that I can look at it later, and he said that he could set that up.
Well, that'd be a great record to have anyway. We ought to film everything we do, Mike.
Sure. I just know if a quorum of the council is going to be there, then I'm going to post the quorum of the council.
Let's post it anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll have Catherine Ray lead it, but we can be...
You can be participating in it.
Yeah, right. We'll have, if there's anything we have to do, we can do, but mainly just information she's going to gather.
If we can, if there's any chance that Kelly can call in, then it is legal now for one of us to be...
It's not a council meeting.
Yeah,
so
it's a workshop, so
it's open to the public.
So
if she can listen from a phone.
That's great. Okay.
She could call in as well.
I probably, thanks for that, Kay, but I probably won't be able to. I'll have to view the recording later, but thanks.
Okay. So, we're having a conference over here.
On my calendar, I checked. We'll talk about it later.
Conference is over, apparently. Okay, Mike, you're on.
Okay, I'm just going to drop quickly down to a few items. Item C is the LED infrastructure improvements. The number of funds available was an error number, and the actual funds in the bond account for LED is $447,000. So that reduces the deficit down to $246,000. And I'm recommending, so that we can move this project forward and get the parking improvements underway, is to item number 9 on the detail breakdown, that the electric fund will pick up the electric system improvements for $100,000. The water and wastewater fund will pick up $60,200 for the replacement of the sewer main that needs to be replaced, and the balance for the paving come from the general fund balance. And that gets us to get this project moving forward. And I did hear your concerns at the council meeting last 2 weeks ago. I have provided you 2 alternative layouts for the parking lot. The only really difference is we're reducing down a lot of the green area and just putting in more parking spaces is the difference between the two. But you don't have to make an answer on that tonight, but what I would like to do is bring back a proposal for council's approval to retain Mr. Cooper from BEFCO Engineering at the next council meeting to get the design work underway now that we know we can fund the project.
So you're not asking us for approval on money, which we have said we wouldn't do under city manager's report, but if anybody wants to object to something, they should tell you now.
Right, because I think I will be making the same pitch in 2 weeks we can fund it. I've sat down with Tracy. We're very comfortable with making the adjustments with the way we ended up the fiscal year. And so we can get this project underway and get that parking lot paved.
What's the difference in number of spaces in the two layouts?
I think there's about 14 additional in the first layout versus the original layout.
Oh, okay.
Is there a cost difference between the two layouts?
No, Gene and I talked, we pretty much think we can do it for about the same, because it's not that much more concrete. But we will have to, in a couple of weeks, decide which layout we're going to go with, so he can work toward that.
Willie?
Mike, were you giving a breakdown on the 246 when you were giving those numbers out of the electric fund and general fund?
Yes, sir.
Was that to reach 246, or?
Yes.
That's what that was? Okay.
Yep, that covers the difference. Because if you recall, last 2 weeks ago, we were looking at over a $400,000 deficit. So getting the correct bond balance made a big difference. And so I'm trying to be responsive to your directive in getting this project moved forward. And secondly, having the level of comfort that we can fund the project when we get a design, and I think we're there. And you wanted all that information before you took action.
Okay.
Okay.
I think you're on the right track.
Okay. The mayor's already mentioned the special council meeting next week. I will get that report ready for you. Keep in mind, we're starting out at the 30,000 foot level on the 29th, and are going to start working down.
Well, we're going to talk with big picture stuff and maybe a whole lot of ideas, and he's going to say, well, you can't afford it. And we're going to say, okay, here's what we'll do.
I'm going to take the projects that you give me, and I'm going to build budgets for each one of the projects. And then when you see the total price tag, you're going to say, well, I think we need to cut down, which every city goes through.
Are you talking about just general fund debt or enterprise debt as well?
Both.
Both.
You've already touched upon, so that we have an all-inclusive process in developing the RFQ is item H. That's for your review, and this is posted on the website. And I hope to bring back to you in 2 weeks maybe an alternative that will address our recreational needs and end up with a larger facility than we were originally looking at. And I'm working on that, and if I didn't have to be in a hearing for 3 days, I'd have it done sooner, but I'm going to be tied up the rest of the week. There's some pictures that was not included for discussion, but just bring your attention. There's some pictures of what the bus shelter looks like. I thought you'd be interested in that. And I'll be bringing you a 6-month review on the convention center, but I think you're going to see that the convention center bookings are up. And with that, I'll answer any questions the council may have.
What's the status of the water hearings?
It starts tomorrow morning at 9
Starts
o'clock. Tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock.
Anything else from Mark?
Just in a nutshell, I know you mentioned about, the letters that were sent out to residents about the water in the community, and I know it's addressed in here, but since I now unfortunately don't have water from the city, mine is WCID, I didn't get the letter. And so are there any things that we really need to be worried about? Because I get citizens talking to me every day now about it, and I haven't been able to address it fully, and so I apologize for not asking sooner.
I think if you read my report, this is we bounced off on one quarter, which caused us to go over, but the city is confident that despite the single test sample reported above, the test above the allowable limits during one test in 4 quarters at a single location, and that's one location out of 7, the city's drinking water is safe for its customers and the people who consume the water use. The state of Texas, via the work of TCEQ, has indicated that the water supply is safe for the public by approving the notice and testing activities of the city. And I've even also expanded what the water filter membranes that we just installed, the additional enhancement of water quality that's going to be providing for us.
Okay, anything else? We will address items A1 through A9 as one item, unless there's somebody that wants to pull something off for specific discussion. Hearing none, I'm going to read the captions on the ones that I'm required to do so. A2 is consideration, discussion, and possible action on the second reading of proposed ordinance City Council of the City of Bastrop amending the budget for the fiscal year 2016 in accordance with existing statutory requirements, appropriating the various amounts herein, repealing all prior ordinances and actions in conflict herewith, and providing for an effective date. A3, second reading of an ordinance of the City Council, City of Bastrop, Texas, amending Chapter 8 of the City Code entitled Offenses and Nuisances, and revising certain definitions in Section 8.07.001, amending Section 8.07.003, entitled Carrying in City Building or Vehicle, providing for publication, providing a serviceability clause, and providing an effective date. Item A4, second reading of an ordinance amending Bastrop Code of Ordinances, Chapter 1, General, Article 1.10, Parks, concerning the commercial use of City of Bastrop Parks, and amending Appendix A, Article A1.10, Parks, amending the setting fees for various uses of city parks, providing a serviceability clause, and providing an effective date. Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda? Is there a second? Let's call the roll. Yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem De La Rosa? Yes. Councilmember Gilliland? Yes. Councilmember McAnally?
Yes.
Councilmember Schiff? Yes. Councilmember Jackson?
Thank you all. Item B1 is a public hearing, consideration, discussion, and possible action on the replat of lot number 24, plus or minus 5.642 acres within the replat of Piney Ridge subdivision, section 3. The replat will create 2 single-family residential lots within the city of Bastrop, Texas, 1 mile extraterritorial jurisdiction. Ms. McCollum.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. This item is coming before you because it's part of an existing subdivision, but essentially they are splitting up this 1 lot that's a little over 5.6 acres into 2 lots. It meets our subdivision standards, but because of it being part of an existing subdivision that is being further re-subdivided, it needs to go through this process.
Any questions?
It's on page 55.
Blackjack is, tell us from Piney Ridge where Blackjack is.
It's on, this map's probably a little too zoomed in, but it's on the way to Piney Creek off of Hoffman or Hawthorne Road up. Yep.
Well, it's way down Laura Lane.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. And it circles back around into the city, or is this?
No,
Oh, it's
this
in the
is-
ETJ, I'm sorry. It's past Tommy's house, okay. All right.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
Is planning and zoning perfectly happy with this?
This actually is being a final planning process in that their existing infrastructure is there. They're just subdivided in half. It did not go to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay, were there any, has this been posted for public?
Yes, we did send out 12 surrounding property owners. We did receive one opposed that I included in the packet, and they didn't state any reasons.
That's what I was going to ask, okay.
But that's the only notification that we received.
Out of 12?
Yes.
I move to approve.
No, this is an action, right? A single action?
Yes.
Well, it is a public hearing, but we act on it.
Oh,
too.
it is a public hearing.
But we can act
apologize.
on it. We're hearing and acting?
Yes.
Or is it posted wrong?
No, you're doing, what you need to do is ask if there's anyone who wants to comment, then close the public hearing, and then entertain a motion to approve.
Okay, so it all be under B1?
This is consideration, discussion, and possible.
So we're ending the hearing. Nobody wants to speak. So motion's now in order, Kay? Or somebody. Did you make the motion earlier?
Second.
No, I'm going to let Kay make the motion.
I'm fine. Gary?
I want you to make the motion.
Okay, I'll make it.
Okay, just for the record, the motion is to approve the replat of Lot 24 plus or minus 5.64 acres into 2 lots for residential development.
I think it was Kay and then Gary seconded.
Councilmember McAnally? Yes. Councilmember Schiff? Yes. Councilmember Jackson? Yes. Councilmember Gilliland? Yes. Mayor Pro Tem Dela Rosa?
We have done item D1. Item D2, the resolution setting up the Vision Task Force as a official city organization requires the commission to have, the task force to have 7 members and as many as 9, but at least 7, and that the mayor may appoint on recommendation. The board has recommended Tricia Silva. I appoint her as to place 7 on the Vision Task Force. No discussion. Please call the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Dela Rosa? Councilmember Schiff? Yes. Councilmember Jackson? Yes. Councilmember Gilliland?
Yes.
Councilmember McAnally?
Yes.
We appreciate, as always, citizens who serve on these boards. Item D3 is consideration, discussion, and possible action on adopting a resolution to select the proxy to represent the city of Bastrop, Texas at the Bluebonnet Electric Cooperative Annual Meeting that's held on May 10th in Giddings. We own a couple of pieces of property, so we can go vote or we can assign the proxy, I think, whatever y'all want to do. Or we can just do nothing. Didn't you go last year? Okay.
Somebody did from the council.
Yeah.
Somebody wanted to.
We don't really keep up,
I mean, if somebody, you have to vote on somebody, if somebody wants to go on campus?
I don't know. We just won't
We
vote.
don't have to do anything.
We just won't vote. Let's see, who was, okay, Willie, if he wants to repeat what you want, I think the conversation was, do we need to send anybody? So, Mike, do you think we need to send anybody?
No, sir.
Hearing no motion, we will move to item D4, consideration, discussion, and possible action for approval of a May 17, 2016 special meeting and canvass for the May 7, 2016 election. Ms. Franklin.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I stand before you to inform you of a conversation that I had with the election administrator for Bastrop County. In the discussion, we talked about possible dates for the canvassing of the May 7th election, and we arrived at the decision that the best possible date would be May 17th. So I bring that before you. At the same time, if you're interested in having the certificates for the elected council members given out at that time, then we could do so. Also, in my past experience, we've had like a little reception for the incoming council members, just to express our appreciation. And so if you're interested in doing that, we could do that as well, but I will need the blessing of the council to do so.
So I think what you kind of described to me was kind of a thank you and farewell and a welcome, come join us kind of combination where we would we would canvass, we would do that. We could make the informal whatever we need to. We could also then go ahead and elect a mayor pro tem and set Robert's Rules of Order, but just have that as all the meeting, but primarily be an informal opportunity for us to do the both things. So Ann brought that idea from Austin, and we knew when we hired her she'd bring some cool things from Austin. So here's one for your consideration if you want to do it.
Move to approve.
Thank you.
Well, Ann, I'll let you go back to your seat and call the roll. And thank you for the great suggestion.
Councilmember McAnally?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dela Rosa?
Yes.
Councilmember Schiff?
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson?
Yes.
Councilmember Gilliland?
Yes.
Thank you all. So mark your calendars. Item D5, I want to go ahead and go into executive session very quickly with JC, just for y'all to fill in a couple of details. We'll come out and give you a chance to vote on Mike's contract. This Bastrop City Council will meet in a closed executive session pursuant to the Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, at Sec. to discuss the following personnel matters. City manager's contract will be in executive session for a few minutes. we'll have a copy of this contract for the press, assuming we pass it. I think Mike may have that. We are back. We're returning to our regular session. We're on item D5, which regards employment agreement with the city manager. We have some typos in what we have, and JC, would you correct those typos for us? That will be a part of our motion whenever somebody makes it.
Are we up for that now?
No, I'm going to let JC read the typos because we've got it.
Do you want them now?
Yeah, I think so. Let's do it because we have it in our packets.
Right. There was one typo on page 1 where the date read May 15th, and that should be May 12th. There'll be an inclusion on page 2 under compensation to make the annual base salary increase retroactive to October 1st, 2015. There was a typo on page 3 under section 4 sub B on the second line. The word "or" should be "of," and I'll make those corrections. And then on page 4, there was a reference to 92 consecutive calendar days, and it should be 90 calendar days. And those are the corrections.
Okay, Kate.
I'd like to move that we approve Mike's contract.
Second.
Oh, okay.
With those adjustments.
Yes, with those adjustments.
That JC just read, as per the contract in our packet.
And I'll third that.
Okay. Do you want to talk about the basic terms of the extension on the record?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
I think we're going to give, Mike's got a copy to give to the press, and if it's important, you think it's important to us, we'll say it to everybody.
Simply for the viewing.
Okay, so what were you asking, JC?
Whether or not you wanted to state the couple of important basic terms.
Okay.
Why don't you do that?
Yeah.
Certainly. This is a restated employment agreement between Michael H. Talbot and the City of Bastrop. It restates his original agreement, which was dated May 12th, 2006. It extends the term of his employment as city manager to December 31st, 2018. It sets his annual salary for this year at $160,000, less applicable taxes, withholding, and payroll deductions, payable in accordance with the city's normal payroll practices, retroactive payment to October 1st, 2015. It recognizes and accepts his 4 years of employment with the city back in the 90s, so that he is attributed with 14 years of employment with the city. Those are the major points.
Right. And we've had a motion, a second, and an attempt for a second. So I think we're ready to vote. Will you please call the roll in?
Councilmember McAnally?
Yes.
Councilmember Gilliland?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem De La Rosa?
Yes.
Councilmember Sheff? Yes. Councilmember Jackson?
Yes.
And I don't know if the mayor signs that, but I'm ready to sign it as soon as it's cleaned up, and I'm hoping Mike will sign it. I think I'm persuaded Mike will sign it. So
I'm very pleased, and I appreciate the council's confidence very much. Thank you.
Okay. Item D6, consideration, discussion, possible action on acceptance and approval of a revised motel occupancy tax use policy and occupancy tax funding application. Ms. Walter.
Good evening. Both of these items are new. We've always had a funding application, but we have actually, with the help of some samples of some other cities, created our own packet, which actually gives the applicant a lot more information, and it gives them more guidance to the process and expectations of what we are expecting from them. The policy, we have not had a hotel motel tax use policy, and so this policy outlines more information about the code, more information about your process and staff's responsibility and council's responsibility. It establishes some scoring criteria so that they will know right up front, what we will be looking at as far as contents within the packet, and just looking for your approval.
I move to approve.
I'd second that. I have a question on it, though.
Kelly?
Do you want me to shout over the train? I really like what you've done with this. I think it's much more clear. But when we get the applications in the packet, can we just get the application and you keep all the things like their tax certificates and their 501c3s on file in case we need to look at them? Because we get
a lot smaller.
Huge book. Good point. This is
I'd
what
be
we
more
need.
than happy.
Thanks.
We'll save a forest.
Yes.
I might comment that I think this is way better than what we've done before. It really organizes. The only question I had on there is that it asks to sort of have some evidence on how many hotel nights you're creating or you did create from your last event, so that you get some history. And for events, it's probably it's very measurable, but I'm also thinking about like advertising and things that are general that are not going to really be able to track hotel nights, and I guess we'll just have to take that and make whatever adjustments we have to make, but just an observation.
If I may then, on that observation, the way I think to handle that, and I think we've attempted to do that in the past, is to get with the hotels, and as people sign in, if they could reference how they found out about the event or the purpose of their visit, and then we could tie that kind of to the events, and that would kind of help document that in some ways. I know when we were doing some other events, we would always let the guests that were going to stay in the hotels, mention to the hotel that they were there for that event. And so if the hotels would work with us on that, and maybe the city can kind of encourage them to do that, that might help us in documenting some of this a little bit better as well.
I think that's a great idea, Doc, but I think that should be the responsibility of the organizations that are applying for money. I don't think the city should try to get involved in helping anybody count their bed usage or anything like that.
It's a very difficult problem that we've had for a long time, and the problem is that it's hard to know for sure, and sometimes the hotels are reluctant to give us information because it's proprietary. So if you can track people down and say, did you stay in a hotel? I mean, that would be helpful information, but it's really hard. It's really hard to do, but I think we need to be asking for it, and they need to make a good, solid effort to provide that information, because if it's not, it doesn't fit the law.
Well, I'm not asking the city to do anything more than to encourage the applicants to, in their documentation, mention to the hotels. I think that can be done easily by the city. And then if they will then follow up, then that will help them in their process and maybe in their funding process as well. But if the city could just kind of let them know that it might help them in their application if they did that.
It's actually part of the packet. It's a requirement.
It's just hard to get it done with any degree of certainty. There was a motion and a second. I think everybody's talked themselves out. Ann?
Councilmember McAnally?
Yes.
Councilmember Gilliland?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem De La Rosa?
Yes.
Councilmember Sheff?
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson?
Yes.
Thank you all. Tracy, great job. Item D7 is a resolution of the council, the county, school district regarding some lots that we own in Pine Forest Unit 6. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this is item D7 on your agenda tonight. I did hand out a revised resolution prior to the meeting. There's some extra copies over there. There were just a few typos and just a few wordsmithing items. But this resolution, the caption says exactly what we're accomplishing here, is recognizing the trustees of the various lots out there, that they have the authority to vote our interest if they're the trustee of the lot.
I so move.
No discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Schiff?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem De La Rosa?
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson?
Yes.
Councilmember Gilliland?
Yes.
Councilmember McAnally?
Yes.
Jillian, you want a cleaned up copy of these? Okay. Hey, we're way ahead. Item D8 is consideration discussion on approval of a resolution by the City Council accepting the city's public records, various communications from members of the Pine Forest Property Owners Association Incorporated. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this is item D8, and through the last many months that we've had membership meetings and various other meetings and court hearings, there has been a resounding response from the residents in Unit 6 and Unit 7 through 12 in support of all of the entity's efforts, and we have received several emails expressing their appreciation, and we thought we should acknowledge their support and appreciate and a token of appreciation because it's been very helpful to us.
Move to approve.
Second.
There we go. I think we're ready to vote.
Councilmember McAnally?
Yes.
Councilmember Schiff?
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson?
Yes.
Councilmember Gilliland?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem De La Rosa?
Yes.
Thank you all. D9, consideration, discussion, and possible action regarding a proposed charter amendment stating that the City of Bastrop could not sell a portion of the city's water system without voter approval. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem De La Rosa.
Thank you, Mayor. I thought, when we talked about this, and when I brought this up at the last meeting, I thought this might be a topic for discussion at our meeting when we talk about, when we have a bond election, to maybe add something of this from charter amendment.
Since it would be the same time?
Yeah, since it would
Does
be the
that
same
make
election.
sense to you, Mike?
It does.
We'll defer to that if that's okay with you. All right, we'll push past item D10. Consideration, discussion, and possible action on the approval of the first reading of an ordinance amending the Bastrop City Code, Chapter 1, Article 1.10 Parks, Section 1.10002H, and Chapter 8, Article 8.02, Section 8.02.002A, concerning administrative approval for the sale, possession, and consumption of alcoholic beverages in city parks, certain other areas, allowing for council to grant such waivers when necessary, providing a serviceability clause, and establishing an effective date. Mike?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, this is item D10, beginning on page 112. This is an ordinance I've been promising to bring to you, and the mayor has been reminding me that I've been promising to bring it to you. This gives me the authority to approve an alcoholic beverage permit at the park, or if I deem it needs to be elevated to the council, then I will elevate it up to the council.
Move to approve.
And just to make sure that if you're going to do it, but if there's some reason you want to bring it to us, that's okay.
Right.
Okay. Everybody got that?
I need a clarification on this.
Sure.
Is this for the rodeo, or is this for all public parks?
This is all public parks.
So we're approving that we can sell alcohol in Fisherman's Park or any place?
I have to approve a waiver, and if I don't feel comfortable, or if I think it's a bigger than what I should be approving, I'm going to elevate it up to the council.
And you check with the chief of police and all that to make,
Right.
you run through all your regular, and I think in the past, Kelly, we've just had
we allowed
just routinely pass these things. Sometimes we put them in the
Consent agenda?
in the consent agenda. It didn't make any sense. It's because we were just trusting Mike anyway. And
I see what you're doing. Okay, I'm good with it.
I think we heard a motion. Did we hear a motion? And let's vote.
Councilmember McAnally?
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson?
Yes.
Councilmember Gilliland?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem De La Rosa?
Yes.
Councilmember Schiff?
Thank you all. We have an executive session.
Just item one only.
The Bastrop City Council will meet in a closed executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, at Sec. to discuss the following: Section 551071-1A and Section 551071-2. That's, well, A and, okay. Consultation with attorneys by telephone and/or in person concerning potential pending, threatened, and/or contemplated litigation or claims, including but not limited to water permits and supply, status of settlement of pending suit or suits, threatened litigation or claims, and/or any matter upon which the attorney has a duty and responsibility to report to the governmental body concerning the same, and/or other matters posted on the agenda. Mike, do you expect us to not have any action come out of this? Or?
I don't think there'll be any action. Do you, Charles?
We're not really expecting any action, just for y'all's information, but you can stay around if you want to. We are now in executive session. No, I'm saying if the press wants to hang around, that's their business. But
Yeah, I mean, I didn't catch them all, but it's basically